Hey everybody, hello. We are here pretty late tonight, but the glory of God that we are here tonight. So we are excited to talk to y'all, speak to y'all about our normal je ne sais quoi, which is about atheism and how applicable it is to our world, how we understand it, and their reactions to our understanding and just conversation overall. But tonight the main focus that we have is we continue to run into the same question of proof, right? And we had a stream not too long ago, maybe last week, where we had atheist demand proof. Here you go. And that video got quite the comments, but trust us, we understand that through the conversation and how it flowed, we weren't able to actually get to the meat and potatoes of the conversation. But it's okay to always return back, don't you think, Malik? We're always back and being able to we here, we ain't going nowhere, right? We got all the time until the Lord say it's time. So slow down, everybody. Let's just let this simmer for a minute. So today we are going to continue with our proofs, with our evidence, what we understand to be true, and any opposition towards that is welcome to join. Always welcome to join.
Yep. And also the reason I think that this is an important conversation is because I noticed that out there in this world, in this atheistic worldview, they are claiming something but want us to bring the proof. And we have no problem with bringing the proof. But the problem is atheists are making claims with no proof, only their feelings. This is what I have seen. We've talked to enough at this point to know that the atheistic worldview is not just stating your claim and then putting the facts out there. They always push the burden of proof on the Christian because they have no real proof. That's the truth. The truth is
they'll state things in absolute, right?
Yeah.
You're saying, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They want to put everything in, well, could be, shoulda, woulda, and then they use these big words and then they're saying a whole bunch of nothing. It's word salad. That's what it is. Honestly.
Well, I disagree, but I don't think it's like coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think the discrepancy is that it's more like this did happen. It's like, well, prove it to me. Show it to me. Show me some doctrine or something to show me what it is you're saying. Like for instance, the scholar that you quoted that said Jesus absolutely did not resurrect. Okay,
yeah, well, talking about Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins. Yeah, show it to
he's confused.
But that's the reality. It's like we can't go through this world with this sense of drift, right? With us saying things, theists claiming things, and then, scholars claiming another, the opposition, atheist scholars claiming another, and not being able to have real productive conversations about what actual facts are. I think in this conversation, sometimes facts get a bit blurry.
That's literally what I was just about to say. That's what I've come to find is that the atheistic worldview, facts are only if it agrees to their worldview. If it's a fact and it disagrees with their worldview, they throw it out and say, well, that's subjective. So a fact is only objective if it agrees with the atheistic worldview. But when it comes to their worldview and it goes against their worldview and it's a fact, they now call that fact subjective. This is why we've had conversations with atheists and then they say, facts are not truth. So if facts are not truth, then what are we talking about? Now we're going to go in limbo and go in circles, and then everybody's just going to be having this conversation that's very minimum to everyone's IQ. Everyone included in the conversation. So I think that it's hard sometimes to talk to atheists because they look at everything subjectively, while at the same exact time claiming that they can feel and they can abide by objective rules. And this is the confusing part for them. Not for me, because I understand objective view because we have a God, right? So we understand that things can be objective. But where they fail is they say these things are subjective if it's against atheism, and then these things are objective if it's lining up with the worldview of atheism. That's why I said, even like, for example, like Richard Dawkins, Even some of their most profound scholars in their worldview, they're confused. You have Richard Dawkins stating that I don't know if Jesus ever existed, but I know for sure he did not resurrect. So one, you're saying I don't know if he existed. Then you're saying I know for sure he didn't resurrect. So you're confused in that quote because what you're stating is I don't really know. So then why don't you just say I don't really know if he didn't resurrect or not? Because you're being facetious on purpose. Then he has another quote stating Jesus was a moral teacher, a good moral teacher. This is what Richard Dawkins says. So he's saying was, meaning Richard Dawkins confirms that Jesus was a real person. But before this, he's saying Jesus couldn't have been a real person, or he doesn't know if Jesus was a real person. So even their top scholars are confused.
Yeah, I think that I empathize with the atheists very much because I do understand confusion, right? None of us are above confusion. I know I seen the comments. Um, but none of us are above confusion, right? I think that the reality is the humbleness and the honesty that comes behind it. What I've seen since we've been talking to atheists, the reaction to our commentary and our discussions is that this lacks intellect and this is just sermon mumbo jumbo. This is babble. But the reality is wisdom is not rooted in an intellect, right? We love to have intellectual conversations. We can have discussions about knowledge and theories and philosophy, and that's beautiful. But the reality is the root of the conversation has to come from a place of heart posture. So sometimes when you're speaking to people, just because people know a lot of big words and terminology does not always mean that they have the wisdom that they're portraying. And this is the dilemma with atheism. A lot of times there's big words and there's theories, but still at the root of the heart is a sense of confusion and a sense of being lost and a sense of anger. And what we see is we question their beliefs. We say, well, we feel like this. And it's like, we don't care how you feel. Stop telling us how you feel. Talk about the facts, right? And then it's like they tell us how they feel. And it's like,
How
no,
could
you're
you
going
change my
to
worldview?
accept my worldview. You're going to listen to me. And it's like almost like a temper tantrum in many elements to say we can have a progressive discussion about philosophy and theology and get to the evidence and get to the facts and get to this real progressive conversation. If every time we speak to an atheist it goes off track based on their worldview and how circular that conversation can become. So you have to understand that we are working towards, we're human beings, nowhere near perfect, ain't nobody sitting over here saying we're scholars or this or that, but what we are doing is having conversations that a lot of people are not willing to have with people that they feel can be very combative and sometimes aggressive. And I think that people feel like that about Christians too. You know what I'm saying? It can be that way, vice versa. I'm not eliminating that from an option or a possibility. But what I'm saying is when y'all are viewing this content, you have to understand that everybody's heart is in a different place. For instance, right? Jason, we had a conversation with Jason, great conversation. You could see that he was actually in a place of seeking. And that's why we asked, are you a hard atheist or are you an agnostic atheist? Because, hey, Lonnie, I just
Hey,
said,
she was,
I
she
just
was
said,
just speaking about you.
good to see you, Lonnie. Glad you here. Glad you're doing well.
Bro,
But
we was literally just speaking about you, Lonnie. We was like, dang, we ain't seen Lonnie on here in a minute.
yeah, it's always good to see people that we started with, even though we still
Yeah,
at the
but you
beginning.
want to know? You want to know what's the big difference? This is the big difference. Let me show you something. This is the big difference on why things are different. The
I
Bible
hope.
tells us.
Go ahead.
The Bible tells us clear as day, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Psalm 53. The wicked fool says in his heart, there is no God. They act corruptly and commit abominable injustice. There
Mm-hmm.
is no one who does good. So this is the difference. We are battling with corrupt mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
To love the people, hate the ideology. This is what we always say. The ideology of atheism is corrupt and abominable, and it serves injustice, and it creates chaos. God literally tells us. He told us from the beginning, 1500 years ago. It's not something that where it's like, well, let's battle our worldviews. Let's do this, do that. What I'm noticing is atheists have this mindset and they don't want to leave it, and they're not open-minded. They're closed-minded to everything, but yet they want us to be open-minded to their worldview. But anytime we say anything against their worldview or challenge it, it's the religion is man-made. Your God's not real. They start throwing all these other things instead of substantiating their argument and standing 10 toes in their beliefs. But I found, sorry, you can't say beliefs with them, their worldview. I find in their worldview that they have no actual foundation. And because they have no actual foundation, they always crumble because their foundation is built on glass, whereas our foundation is built on solid gold.
The rock.
Solid gold.
The rock. That's 100% though. That's 100% true. Like I seen a comment that said,
He said, now you're gonna tell me the earth was created by Big Bang. Exactly.
it's it's difficult because you want to have conversation with these people and go forward in a way that is Christ-like and productive, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the goal. But ultimately, when coming on here night after night, you have to work through those kinks because you can get easily looped into circular conversation. And I think that circular conversation kind of like micro focuses on the world, because I think that that macro focus of zooming out really gives that perception of God. So let's argue nuances, let's argue language, let's argue definitions, let's do that, because that makes us feel like we have control over these micro things. And so like even I think it's Richard Dawkins when he talks about the illusion of design, assumptions that things get smaller. As things get smaller, they get simpler, and that is like one of the things that we think is a illusion in their mind, that if we focus on the smaller things will get simpler. But in reality, the more you zoom into a human being, to DNA, to atoms, to cells, things get a lot more complicated. And so as they zoom into these arguments about language or about how you feel about your life experience and stuff, you really start to relate on a human level, like on a level of you exist and I exist, you believe in something and so do I. And then it's like, well, now it's just like a constant objection. So, I mean, I'm not going on just to like, beat a dead horse, but I'm just saying that in this conversation, we really do have to start to get to that Bible, because the Bible is going to prescribe a lot of clarity where I think they lack that, because it's a lot of like church hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of what is hell? Hell is scary. Why are they doing? Why would God do this? Why would God do that? And we're merely man. We can't tell you from our feelings or from a definition or from a scientific theory why things are, but the Bible can give the best context and clarity that is possible for our lifetime at this point, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
That's what
We pinned at the top, guys. If you have any objections to your worldview of atheism, go ahead and click the link at the top. I pinned it to the vertical view because we're streaming two different ways. We're streaming vertically and horizontally. I pinned it to the very top of the chat on the vertical view and on the horizontal view. So depending on which one you're watching from, if you are an atheist or even agnostic, you can click the top of that link. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask you a question. I have a perspective as well, but I wanted to ask you this. So the question is, should we seek purpose or are we born with it? Right? And the reason I have that question is because a lot of times the conversation specifically with atheists is about purpose. It's about purpose, it's about value, it's about morality, it's about good and bad, right? And so my question to you is, what do you think? From your perspective, are we supposed to be seeking it out or are we born with it?
No, I mean, that's clear as day. We're born with purpose. That's the reason we were placed on this earth in the first place. This is what God says. But when you were in your mother's womb, I knew you.
Mm-hmm.
We're already being brought in the spirit of purpose.
Right.
Our purpose is when we're in the womb, we're already growing in our purpose, right? So it's literally impossible. If there is no God, nobody has a purpose. Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Because God is telling you from birth, when you took your first breath, you were already born with purpose. This is how you know already. You could take a 2-year old who doesn't have speech yet, or a 1-year old that doesn't have speech yet. But if they were to do something wrong, right, they would automatically know this is wrong, even if they couldn't actually say it with their mouths, because God has already tattooed us from birth. He tattooed us from birth our purpose, right from wrong. So we already know these things. So it's literally impossible to seek to seek purpose. It's already given to us. Now here's the hard part that humans don't understand. Even for myself, our purpose we're born with. The hard part is God is not going to just hand it to you. You have to go work to actually, you know,
Cultivate.
to cultivate and walk in the will of God, of the purpose He birthed you for. So that's where they misunderstand. They think seeking your purpose means, you go find your own purpose. No, God birthed you with a purpose, right? Now it's up to you to take the talents He gave you, right? We see it all throughout the Bible. The people with the 10 talents, the people with the 2 talents, the people with the 1 talent. It's up to us to take the talents He gave us and go walk in the will of the Father, so that way we can live in our purpose. But what atheists, this is why a lot of times they're unhappy, is because they think they have to go create a purpose. But you're not a creator. You're definitely not the ultimate creator. So
Mm-hmm.
your purpose was already placed in you when you were birthed. It's just up to you to go cultivate your purpose so you can walk in the will of the Father, not your will.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
100%, I agree. And I think that me and Malik have come to an understanding of the atheist dilemma. And put very simply, the atheist dilemma is that atheists are not happy. And why do we know this? Because the Bible says that if you don't believe in a God, if you don't proclaim a God, if you don't follow in the ways of God, then you find no peace.
Mm-hmm.
And by, we can allude to the fact that that correlates to a person's level of happiness. And so when we find these combative conversations, not all, it doesn't mean that they're not kind. It doesn't mean that we haven't had great, respectful conversations. It's not that at all. It's just
Yeah.
more along the lines of a sense of despair in their spirit when you're searching and you're longing. So I was watching Wes Huff. I really have grown fond of him. And with him, he says we humans should know and glorify God as purpose, living a faithful life to God, loving Him with our entire being. And the reason that stuck out to me that he said that is because me and Malik always talk about loving God with all of your, like from the Bible, it says your mind, your soul, and your spirit. And so what I'm even discovering for myself is that this necessity to do, right, to be good and to be, and that's the focus sometimes of these conversations, to be good and to have this intrinsic value that is proclaimed from self, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't work. It just doesn't. It does not work because when we focus on self, and that's one of the things in this world, there's never been a time that I've ever met a human being that says, I love a selfish person or I
Yeah.
like a selfish act or watching and viewing selfishness is something that appeals to me. And of course, this can spiral into a conversation about morality, but overall, the more we sacrifice self, the more we focus on God and less on self, you can see yourself transform. That is the process of being made holy, a process of repentance, killing your old self and being born again. And sometimes these words are very triggering to people because they don't like the biblical terminology, but in reality, biblical terminology relates to science all the time. How can we be born again? Well, you are giving a lot of yourself. And ultimately, holiness is a complete dependability and trust and faith within God. And that's like at 100%, right? Which we haven't experienced in this lifetime, but hopefully we all experience it in the next. And so I think that that's our purpose. And I was telling my sister this the other night, just to sum it up. When you're focusing on God, everything else you don't got to worry about. So when God says in that book, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry, don't be afraid, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. And we think that that's just ludicrous. We live in a real fallen world where it's just difficult to even keep your head on straight sometimes. But what is the solution to not having to worry and not being afraid, right? These anxious and depressed and all of these things. What is the solution? What is he actually asking us to do when he says faith without work? What is the work? It's focusing on him. That's why he says to follow me. Follow him. And you can't follow somebody if you ain't focusing on them. Follow him, watch him, mimic him, love him, and watch your entire life transform based on the fact that you've dedicated it to him.
Yeah, but you remember who you got to remember who we are talking to. Everything you just said is true for someone who believes.
Right, I understand.
We're talking to people who say, yeah, you preachers to the choir, I don't care about none of that. That's the truth, right? So
long with sermon babble.
Everything you're saying, I would agree with.
Right,
but
right.
The people who are actual atheists, they're saying that just sounds like a whole bunch of religious mumbo jumbo to me, right? Because what they want in order for them to believe is for Jesus to come down here right here and look them in the face and say, I am God. That's what they want. But they don't understand, if Jesus is coming back and he's in your face, that's a problem. Because Jesus said he's not coming back until the day of the Lord is here. And the day of the Lord, it might be too late for you. So I think, yeah, that's what I was literally just about to go into. They're willing to risk him not being real in their head, all based off of church hurt. Because I've never, ever name me anyone, and if they said this, I bet you if you gave them a polygram test, they'll be lying. I've never in my life met someone who says I was born an atheist. That is an absolute lie. Anyone who tells you that is a liar. You're not born an atheist. I don't care what anyone says, you're lying. Something happened, an event happened, someone in your life upset you, or God himself may upset you because you asked them for something and you thought you deserved it. So you're either upset with God, upset with a family member or a friend, or upset with the church. So then you blame God for it. Then you start questioning, and then you start going into thinking, but you're not born an atheist. No matter what anyone says, no one is born an atheist. You're born trying to figure out where is your creator. You're born with this. You're not born with going against the creator. And we know this because no one is born an atheist. No one. No one. There's a reason why little children is that atheism is the default position. What are you talking about? You are taught religion. You do realize, okay, I love this conversation right here. You do know that Christianity is not a religion, right? It's not a religion. Why is it not a religion? Because in fact, Christianity is the only one that's not merely based off of a belief system. For example, Islam is based off of the belief that Muhammad was the real prophet and Allah is their God. Christianity is not based off of this way. Christianity is based off of the fact it is a claim statement. What do I mean by claim statement? The claim statement is Jesus did rise from the dead. They didn't say, oh, I believe in Jesus, so I think he's God. No, this is not how it happened. How it happened was they claimed to have seen Jesus alive again after he had died. This is a claim statement, not a belief statement. So it's not a religion. It is literal. It is a literal fact that this is a claim statement. Therefore, they actually said they seen something, not that they just believe something. It's the only one. All of the rest of them, go look into it. All of the rest of them is based off a belief system. Christianity is the only one that's based off of a claim statement. I seen Jesus risen from the dead, so much so that they were willing to be beheaded for it.
And I think for clarity, what we're trying to help you understand is overall, we are all created in the image of God, whether you want or you're willing to believe it or not. And with that, we're trying to explain to you that there is an imprinting, an understanding amongst all of humanity that connects us in a transcendent way that leaves out the black and white questions into this gray area where we have to ask further questions. And so I think with atheism, it gives a very black and white understanding of the world. Whether you want to put a lot of divinity into it, you want to put a lot of intellect and words and, descriptions as to what you believe, and that's fine. I think the expansion of it and the articulation of your worldview is fine. That's what you want to believe in. But the reality is, no matter how much articulation you put into it, it still comes down to a foolish worldview because we understand transcendence past what we can see.
Yep.
And even if you say that's not true, there's nothing beyond this life. There's nothing after this. There's nothing more to us than just material, flesh and impulses. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just not true,
Yeah,
right?
if you're just a bunch of matter, why do you care to be alive? Because there's nothing for you after this life. There's nothing in your worldview after this life. So what's the point of living if there's no purpose to your life, there's no value to your life, and there's nothing for you after this life? That's a pointless, purposeless life. He says, are we meant to disprove all gods or just your God? Just Jesus Christ. Because all the other ones, they're not real. They're false gods that don't exist. So I don't care about any other fake gods.
Let's see.
Yeah.
How do we know? This is a good question. How do you know that we're created in the image of God? Someone taught you that, right? You didn't come out of the womb believing that, right? Wrong. This is not true. The thing about it is, I, okay. I'm not gonna talk. I'm gonna speak it straight tonight. The reality is, but prior to Christianity, even in the Old Testament, when there was just God, when the conceptualization was just God, which was a very intelligent move on God's end to be able to just introduce this perceptualization, to just be able to wrap your mind around a higher power and then providing the clarity of Christ. We understand that there's a necessity, a want, a longing for value, purpose, understanding, right? Whether you correlate that to God through your own logic, that is your prerogative. But the reality is, I think that majority of people who believe in God, who understand God, understand that since we have the ability to logically think, we've been able to say there has to be more purpose than what I can see on paper. There has to be something that transcends human beings past what we see in creatures, in animals, in anything else that exists in this world. We have a consciousness that's separate from our body. We have abilities to do things, create things, understand things in a different way. Like, for instance, if you train a gorilla to paint the Mona Lisa, would he be able to stand back and look at it and perceptualize it just like Leonardo da Vinci? No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't.
He'd be able to actually look at what he's really seen, what
Mhm.
he really painted. No, he was just doing something to paint it. He was instructed to paint it, so that's all he did. But he
Because
can't
we're not
actually see what
robots.
yeah.
We're not robots. And so if you don't accept that as something supernatural or higher than self, that's fine. But the reality is, that's the hard questions. These philosophical questions are things that need answers. Have we found answers to it from a perspective of absolute? No, but the discussion of it and the understanding and the belief amongst human beings should be able to be expressed and be able to progress in a way to where we can find new conclusions. But when you say, oh, there is no God, there is none, you have to see that you're sounding foolish because you're speaking in an absolute.
Mm-hmm. Looks like we got a guest.
All right.
Name is SOS.
Let me see if his mic is open. Let's check your mic, SOS.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound a little muffled.
Hold on. Is it still muffled?
Let's try to work with it. Are you atheist, agnostic, hard atheist? How do you identify?
I would say more agnostic,
Okay.
Agnostic.
Agnostic. Okay.
but I identify with like atheistic mindset and perspectives.
Okay. So basically, you like the idea of kind of what atheism intellectually, puts forth, but you're not necessarily saying there is not a God. You're more necessarily stating that there's a possibility there could be one, but you just don't know who or where if he exists.
I'm definitely atheistic when it comes to Bible God. I don't think that Bible God is the
With
true
Jesus.
God. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Were you ever religious?
Yeah, I grew up in a church. Like my mom took us to Sunday school, like every Sunday and all that good stuff. Like I'm from the South, so
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the Bible Belt, so yeah, it's part of our culture.
So briefly, when you decided to reject God, what was it? What happened? Very briefly. Don't put all your business
Uh,
out.
I mean, I wouldn't put it like that. Like I decided to reject God. It's more that I just did research on the Bible and on religions and history and Christianity and just science, everything, and it kind of all came together and kind of opened my eyes to you know a different perspective.
Go ahead, Malik.
Okay, so you said it opened your eyes to a different perspective.
Yeah.
So there was something about because you said you were a Christian before, right?
You say what again?
You said you were a Christian before, right?
Yeah, I was definitely. I mean, yeah, I was definitely a Christian. I was brought up a Christian since I was a kid. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't say it was my choice. It was like something that I was brought up into.
Yeah. So my thing is, what about the atheistic worldview that appealed to you more than than Jesus Christ? Because that's ultimately what
Well,
it is. It's something that appealed to you more here than so here. So it made you question here and leans you over here.
well, it's just learning about history. For one thing, learning about history and
Like
the historical perspective versus like uh the timeline that the Bible was on, and then just learning about uh different contradictions that's in the Bible, learning about the history of how the Bible was put together,
and
learning about different esoteric teachings, and then once you start learning different things, you're able to kind of see outside of the box.
okay, so did you learn like when the Bible was written? For example, like the New Testament. Did you learn like when the Gospels were written?
Yeah, yeah, I've
Yeah.
studied that.
So when do you think the Gospels were written?
When the Gospels came together over a course of you know years after Jesus was crucified or whatnot. So
Yeah, by like how many years do you think?
I mean, when you say the gospel, are you saying the whole Bible Gospels or the four
No,
Gospels?
Gospels, yeah, the actual Gospels. So the New Testament would be, even Paul's
Like
writings,
John,
or
Mark,
Acts.
Matthew, Luke.
Yeah, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Those, if I'm not mistaken, don't get me wrong, I'm not a scholar, but
Yeah, us either.
I believe, I believe. I mean, it would have been over the course of maybe. the first gospel that was written was I think it was Matthew. It was either Matthew or Mark. I believe it was Mark. But
Yes, you're correct. It was Matthew first. I mean, sorry, it was Mark first, then
yeah,
Matthew,
Mark.
then
Right.
Luke, then John. Yes,
Right. And
that is
so,
correct.
I mean, yeah, those happened over a course of, at least decades. So, I mean, it wasn't like they was like just written back to back, but it was
When you
different
say a decade,
observations.
you could say a decade is 10 years. You can say a decade is 20 years. You can say a
But
decade is.
decade, I said decades plural. So, I mean, like 20, 30, 40 years.
Oh, okay. So that's why I was kind of asking. So if it's 20 years, I mean, if it's 20 years and they're claiming that Jesus rose from the dead, would you be able to remember something that significant 20 years later? If you were to see a man risen from the dead, would you be able to remember that 20 years later?
Well, so we're talking about it was decades from after Mark was written, but Mark was written decades after the crucifixion already. So I
Yeah,
think
that's what I'm
it was
asking you.
supposed to. This might have been like 70 AD when Mark was written. So I mean, you looking at 40 years after the crucifixion already. So it's already a oral stories that's being passed around. You know what I mean? So it's already a telephone game by the time that the first book was written.
Yeah, Mark being written after the 70s is actually not true. But
Okay, when was he written? When was it written?
yeah, I'm about to get into that, but I want to say this. Even let's say, for example, even if Mark was written in 70 plus AD, right?
Yeah.
This still wouldn't matter if the event were true or not. For example, I promise you, until the day every single person who witnessed this event passes away, they will remember for the rest of their life. 9/11. 9/11 was such a traumatic event that if you ask anyone who was there in New York at the time 9/11 happened, they probably still remember it to the T from the day it happened because they were there, and it was such a traumatic event that they will not forget it. It's what's called a trauma memory. A trauma memory is something that's so sporadic to you that even if you were an 80-year-old person, you would still remember this event because it impacted you so much. So something like 9/11, people who go through like the world wars, there's interviews of men who were like World War II, and they would interview them. They'll be 90, 92 years old, and they can still recall the tragic events of their brother, their soldier dying right next to them. They could still remember these things because it was so significant and impactful to their life. So even if it was 70 years later, someone rising from the dead is unforgettable. You would not be able to forget that, just like you wouldn't be able to forget 9/11 or World War II.
No, I like that point, but I mean, I think that's a great point on my end too because um, 9/11 is a great example. So you can act, let's say, 100 years from now, the narrative of 9/11 is going to be that the United States went into Iraq because they had weapons of mass destruction after we got bombed 9/11. Even though it wasn't Iraq that bombed us, it was a whole other country or Saddam Hussein or whatever, Afghanistan. So uh, it's so many lies and misinformation that's tied to 9/11 that even though people actually went there and they'll remember that years later, the story that they tell about it may not be accurate on what actually happened. So that's a great example. So just because people remember a crucifixion of a man or of a prophet doesn't mean that all the stories and details that the narrative that's been told about that is actually true. And then
Wow.
even more so with 9/11, the government and the powers that be, the media, the press, they're able to shape a narrative. It's the people that's in power. It's the same thing with Jesus. The Romans, they took over that story and they were able to shape a narrative around this prophet to their benefit.
That's
So
not
it's the
true. 'Cause
same.
why would they want to shake up and take over a story that they didn't believe in the first place? Because they actually they were over the Jews. They ruled
Right.
over the Jews. They did not believe
Exactly.
in their God.
That's the point. They was the empire that had the power to.
Yeah, but
Um,
they didn't believe in their system. They believed in the Greek mythology. They believed in Zeus. They believed in Poseidon. They believed in the Greek mythology. So it's no
exactly,
reason for them
and that's my
to
argument is that
adapt.
what Christians worship today is a deity that the Roman Church made up. You
So
know
do
what
you
I'm saying?
believe
They
he was a real person?
I think Jesus was based off a real person. I mean, I don't even think his name would have been really Jesus. Like Jesus is a
Well, yeah, that's just a
yeah.
transliteration of what English into English. He had an actual Aramaic name because Jesus spoke Aramaic, so he wouldn't have
Right.
spoke English.
So the real prophet that Jesus is based off of, people don't have any idea, or most people don't really have any idea what he's like. Like if they seen him today, they probably wouldn't like him because like he was a Jew, so he would be doing Jewish traditions. You know what I'm saying? Like like you know what I'm saying? Like
He,
even like all these.
Jesus was an ethnic Jew, so of course, yeah, he abided by Jewish traditions,
Yeah,
but
he was a Jewish prophet that you know what I'm saying. He was fighting for the Jews. You know
no,
what I'm
no, no.
saying?
So this is false because Jesus, you read the Gospels, correct?
Yeah, I've read. I mean, yeah.
So
You
the
mean
reason I'm saying that
the
is
gospel
because
specifically? Yeah.
yeah, the reason I'm saying that is because Jesus was an ethnic Jew who was going against what the Jews believed in. This is why they wanted him crucified. So he wasn't there, being friendly and being lottie-dottie with the Jews. He was there to dismantle their hardened hearts. So Jesus was there telling them that I am the Son of God, and they called him blasphemous. He came there saying, I am the Son of Man. They called him blasphemous. He came there saying, I can forgive sins, and his own people stated that he was blasphemous, and they tried to throw him off a cliff and tried to stone him. Every single time Jesus claimed to be God, they started stating that he was blasphemous and they wanted him dead. But by law, they couldn't do it, so they persuaded the Romans to do it. So he wasn't there being friendly with the Jews. This is how you know it's even more authentic, is because he came there going against what the Jews thought was going against their traditions. But he was there fulfilling the prophecies that was all the way dated back to the Old Testament. So Jesus wasn't there, just being lolly-dotty friendly with the Jews. They didn't like him.
Yeah, exactly. And so when the Romans started pushing the narrative, they set up Jesus as being in opposition to the Jews, and then
No, that's not true. Jesus became an opposition before the Romans even got involved.
but what the only time you read the Bible was in retrospective. You didn't know this information before it was written in retrospective. So we're reading this information 2,000 years later. So to say that something happened before you read it is is impossible because you're
Okay, so
basing
like
the
the
timeline off of
reason
what
we
you
can,
read.
so I'm gonna tell them this point real quick. The reason why we can put this in retrospect and say that this is the events that happened, because the Bible is just what we have today. The
Yeah, it's written
Torah,
down
the
by humans.
Torah, the Torah. What is it?
I said it's written down by people, by
Yeah,
men.
but the Torah, the Old Testament was already there before Jesus even arrived in the flesh. In the flesh, the Torah in the Old Testament was already there. So
Yeah,
it
right.
wasn't like they just, all of a sudden Jesus showed up and then they just started writing. People have been documenting stuff 500, 600, 700, 1,000, 1,500 years before Jesus even popped up on the scene.
Right. So they being prophesied that a messianic figure would come and free the Jews from captivity and bring in,
Oh,
you
not
know,
from captivity, from their sins.
from the yeah, I don't know about it.
Yeah, he wasn't freeing them from captivity because he said
I
the
mean,
people.
saying freeing someone from their sins is a metaphor to play off someone being in captivity. But
No,
a lot
the
of the
reason
Bible
we
is
know it's
just
different.
like
The
that.
reason
It's like they
But the reason
make
we know it's
metaphors
different
off
is
of.
because Jesus states two different things with those. He's stating, I'm here to forgive sins, but he also states that the people who follow him will end up in prison or end up persecuted. So clearly, Jesus knows the difference between forgiving sins and persecuting and going to jail in his name. He states this. So he knows the difference, what he's stating when he's saying, I'm here to forgive sins and to help you get away to eternal life, versus when you follow me, you're going to have to pick up your cross and you're going to go to jail for it. You're going to be beheaded for it. You're going to be persecuted for it. You're going to be hated for it, just like they hate me. So he knows the difference.
Because he was a rebel. He was a rebel figure in ancient Jewish and Greco-Roman culture. So yeah, he was because the priestly class of the Jews, don't people got to understand, they were tied in with the Romans, because they were getting benefits. This is political too. So
Basically, where
yeah,
are you getting that information from?
I mean, just history.
From where?
History. Just learning about Jewish culture and the rabbi,
Yes.
the priest and the king. The priest. You had the priest and the king. The priest and the king have always been hand in hand. That's why when we founded America, one of the first things that the Puritans did was establish the separation of church and state, because that always led to corruption when you had the priest and the king working hand in hand.
Good, man. You can jump in.
Sorry, I zoned out a bit.
Sorry,
Well, he was.
sorry to get out. I know I can't.
No, it's okay. I wanted to home back to the topic. You said we're just like conceiving this afterthought, right? Like we're reading this as an already established doctrine, right? And so my question for you is like, for your perspective, because you're reading it just like we are, and you're making your analysis based on a doctrine that's already established as well. So when you have these notions of like Jesus and him being in the way that, because you're saying that their view of him and the way that they operated with him and their perspective is only kind of like what you're saying is like kind of falsified in this book, in the Bible, right? Is that what you're saying? Like the perception that we have of Jesus is falsified in the Bible? Do you leave?
Yeah,
I think
he
it
dropped
just
out. Yeah, he dropped out. We can get to we have another guest, D Perks.
maybe he'll pop back up.
I guess he'll have to wait because he's been waiting for a while too.
Let's check your mic, D Perkins. How are you?
I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
you hear?
I don't know if you're on my TV or on my phone. Either way.
We'll come back to you, SOS. So D Perkins, are you atheist
I'm an agnostic atheist.
or agnostic? Have you always been agnostic, or were you religious at some point?
I was religious. I grew up in a small town where everybody went to the same church in north of Louisiana. And from there, I moved to New Orleans. Grew up in New Orleans.
Okay, and
Started.
is there something
Go ahead.
specific that made you reject God? Where you found disbelief?
But when you say God, what does that mean?
Well, let's use it in a general sense of what the entire population would identify as God, a higher being. So when
Oh
you
well,
reject,
well, they have different
go ahead.
religions that worship different gods. Even in Christianity, the different denominations, you can have two Christians come on here right now and disagree with almost everything you're saying. That's
Okay,
why there's so many denominations of Christianity.
So
okay.
what we're stating is, why do you reject the one true God, which is the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ? Why do you reject it?
Well, first of all, that sentence doesn't make sense to me because you name three and you call it one. I was taught early on that one plus one plus one is three.
Yeah, but before I get into the Trinity, the Trinity is something for after we've already established what
Well, but
God.
you asked me that question, and I was trying to tell you the question didn't make sense.
Why do you reject Christ?
Um, so you mean Christ or Yahweh?
They're the same. But why do you reject Jesus Christ?
So you think they're the same?
I don't think I know.
One question. When you were you said that you were religious prior to being atheist. What did you believe in? What God did you believe in?
When I was young, well, I've followed my parents and my family to church, and I had questions, even the questions I had then. The pastor couldn't answer, or Sunday school, they would say, "Well, you have to lean not on your own understanding." They would give me some Bible verse to shut me down. But as I grew up and technology came about, now information is right at the tap of a button. And
Mhm.
I've watched many religious debates. Um, I've watched apologetics, and I never see where apologists come out on top in my eyes. Their argument just doesn't make sense. There's a lot of assertions and fallacies.
Okay. But when you were in the church and you were asking these questions, it was Jesus that you believed in at that time. The God that you're questioning is Christ. Is this right?
My grandmother had a picture of blonde hair, blue eyed Jesus on the
Mhm.
wall with Martin
Okay.
Luther King and John Kennedy.
I'm gonna take that as a yes. So when you decided to stop believing in Christ, was it because of your research? Was it something that happened? Was it something that was taught at your church? What was it that you started to transition from belief to disbelief?
I started to gain knowledge, and I found out that Christ is not a name; it's a title. And that person, if it's based on a real person, his name wasn't Jesus because there was no J at that time.
So was the transfigure the translations the things that bothered you about that? Like translating his name from Jesus and articulating that with the exchange of Yahweh, like that being something that is correlated to equal. Was that was bothersome to you?
Um, it just didn't make sense. I, I've all the questions you were asking the other guy. Yes, I've read the Gospels, and Mark was written first, and then Mark was added, and no one knows who added it. No one actually knows who wrote the Gospels. They're anonymous.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that the question? If you could sum up one of your major questions when it comes to Christ, what would it be?
It sounds like mythology to me.
Hmm. In what aspect?
No, I don't mean any disrespect.
No disrespect
I
taken.
don't even disrespect anyone's belief, but
No, we
that's
don't
just
take we
me.
don't take this personal, or we don't take it heart to heart. Like, we don't get angry.
You're
We're
my
here.
brother and sister. I love you,
You're entitled to your belief. You can speak
Yeah,
freely. Go ahead.
100%.
but I don't believe our slave owners would have given us anything that was worth anything. I think when they dropped the shackles off us, they gave us the Bible.
Hmm. Where'd you get
And
where'd
so
you receive that information that the Bible was given to you in slavery? What source is that? Not saying you're wrong, just wanting to be
no,
able to
no,
pull
no, no, no. Uh,
see.
and I'm be honest with you. Everything I know, I can't quote every source, but like I say, I've read I've read many books. I've read apologist books and atheist books,
The
and
reason
I've
that,
done my research.
I think for a lot of times, honestly, I believe that's an scapegoat to use slavery and try to pin it on God. The reason I say that is, even if slavery exists, right, which we know it existed, does that still negate the fact that God exists? No. And you can't pinpoint God and say, well, because God, let slavery happen, this is his fault. Why don't you pinpoint the men or the man or the women that did the slavery and say they were evil. Instead, what happens is people turn and say, you know what? Black people were enslaved, therefore it's God's fault. Instead of saying, no, this is evil people who did an evil deed.
Can I answer that before you keep going?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm asking is,
Uh,
why are you blaming God instead of blaming the man who did an evil deed?
because God gave the Jews the rules for slavery, and they can enslave the people around them. He just didn't want them to enslave Jews.
No, that's
You
not.
can take the slaves from the nations around you, and you can bequeath them to your sons because the daughters didn't matter.
No, that's not true. What you're quoting is actually when Israel would go to war with other people. That's what you're quoting. But in
Not just war.
that I'm saying what you're quoting right now is in the Bible when it's speaking about when they would go to war with other people and they say, hey, you can take this woman, who was a part of the other group that was a part of this war, and you can take them captive. That's you're
You can
speaking
take them
about
and do what
war.
with them?
But in
Can
fact,
you tell me exactly what they would do with the women?
what would they do with the women?
That I could tell you, they would take them home. They would cut their hair, trim their nails, and they would give them 30 days to mourn the family that this guy just slaughtered, and then he could have her.
Yeah, but what must he do?
What do you mean? What must he do?
It's what you're quoting. It says what that man must do. He must what with her?
Mary.
He must
Marry.
marry her. Exactly. So he can't just have his way with her. God
But
gives him an
but she
instruction.
doesn't
You
get a
have
choice.
to marry her.
What
Is
if she
that
doesn't
moral?
want to be married?
Is that moral to say, hey, you must marry her before you can lay with her?
If somebody killed my whole family, why would I want to marry that person?
No, you're talking about the war. The war has nothing to do with the
Yes,
marriage.
you take those.
You're,
First of all, you had to check the young ladies to see if they were virgins, because and in one war, I think there was with
but
Saul.
you're going
God
you're
God
missing you're going into the semantics. You're missing the whole point of the whole story.
what
What
I'm
I'm
telling
saying,
you about Yahweh.
Mhm.
no, what I'm stating is, and also in that
Is
period,
anything I'm saying wrong?
yeah, what you're saying is wrong because you're looking at it from the wrong lens because you're not actually understanding the whole story. You're taking pieces of it because you're going based off of the biased perspectives that the
I'm
atheist.
going off the Bible.
No, you're not, because you didn't even know that he says you have to marry them. You left that part out. Either you knew it or you left that part out on purpose.
I don't. Okay, I do not have it in front of me right now, and I can't quote
Pull it
scriptures
up.
to you because I don't read it every day. So I apologize for not remembering that part. But even I don't think that part really makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. Because you're stating the reason it makes a difference is because you made a claim that he can have his way with her and do whatever he wants. No, God says you must marry that woman. Even in the 21st century, men don't marry the women and they do whatever they want with her and leave her. God, even 2,000 years ago, says you must marry her.
And she becomes his property. Am I wrong?
She becomes his wife. And then she becomes a part of that family. She becomes a part of that tribe. That's the reason why he said you must marry her, because y'all did go to war with her tribe, right? You can't just take her, right, and treat her as property. If you are fond of her, you must marry her. That way she becomes a part of your tribe.
One question.
That's the purpose of it, because she's now acknowledged as a Jew. She's
Okay.
now
Okay.
acknowledged.
Can I ask one question on that? One question on that subject.
Good.
Where where is her choice? What if she doesn't want to marry the person who just killed the family?
Well, then, if she doesn't want to marry the person that just killed her family, then she's on her own.
Exactly.
She's collateral damage. Sadly, this is a product
Yeah,
of war.
all it is she just has to go her own way. But most of the time, the women back then, they
But I
don't.
never saw that she had that option.
Yeah, she does.
I see the man. If the man doesn't I don't want to misquote it. I don't want to know where that Bible is.
Let's take for instance, he doesn't marry her, and she doesn't have the option. Like he doesn't marry her as God instructed, and then he does have his way and send her out. Right? He's wrong. At that point,
Yes,
Exactly.
he's wrong.
I say wrong. Yeah,
He's
Yeah.
disobeying the word of God.
Yeah,
But
because
God is
God,
I would say even forcing her to marry him is wrong.
well. Then what's her other option?
Well, that's her choice. It's her life. We all get
Right.
one life to
that's
live,
Present the
and we all
choices.
get to
Present
make
the
that choice.
choices. Absolutely. And so present the choices because we have to remember this is ancient times. So present the choices
Yeah,
that she has, and what would be her best option is the question.
maybe anything other than laying with the person who just murdered my family.
Well, they're going to enslave her then. And then, I mean, I understand the moral perspective, but I think that she might prefer to be a part of a family and live civilized versus being enslaved. And yes, we can talk about the morality of men in this instance, but the reality is God is making the man moral in a sad time where he never created us to go to war and all these things, but these are the actions of man.
and that's another thing I was about to say is slaves back then is not what you're thinking about when we're talking about American slavery with chains and shackles. Back then, you could be a slave and you could be a successful lawyer. They had lawyers could be slaves, and
So
because slaves back
you
then
can
was
beat a
somebody.
slave as
Slaves back
long
then
as he
was somebody
doesn't
who
die
owed
within
debt.
3 days, 2 to 3 days.
Slaves back then, if
That's
you
not a
owed
lawyer.
a debt, you had to pay your debt back. So you could become a slave because you owe debt.
Could you beat that slave?
Could you beat that slave?
Yes.
I mean, they did it. It doesn't say God doesn't say you can. He said they
Yes,
do
he
it.
does. As long as they don't die within 2 to 3 days from their wound.
No, no, no. You're not quoting God. You're quoting Moses. You're not quoting God.
I'm quoting the Bible though.
No, you're quoting Moses, not God.
So we
For
different. Okay.
example, for the reason I'm saying that is, for example, when Jesus came and the Pharisees tried to come to him and they said, well, Moses told us that we can divorce a woman if we just don't like them, just give them divorce decree
No, for the hardness of their heart. I know.
and move them on about their merry way. And Jesus said, no, this is Moses was we only allowed this to happen because Moses knew you guys had hardened hearts. But this is
Yes.
not the way I intended it to be. The way I intended it to be was husband and wife, they go into death do them part. So Moses would subscribe things, but that didn't mean it came from God. That came from Moses, which is why Jesus came to correct things. So what you're quoting is Moses, not God's law.
Jesus said he did not come to change to abolish the law, not one dot, not one tittle, or however they go. He didn't come to change the law.
He came to do what?
Fulfill it.
I don't
To
remember the rest.
to fulfill it. He
To
came to
fulfill it.
fulfill it,
Okay.
meaning to show them what it means to actually
Apply the law.
apply the law, because they were abusing and misusing the law. They weren't applying the law
But that's
correctly.
your interpretation of what he said. He didn't actually say that.
Yeah, he said I came to fulfill the law. And
Yes.
then
Then you interpret all the rest of it from that,
no, I don't interpret it. I'm seeing what he did in his life.
which we don't know exactly what he did in his life because we only have uh, two different birth narratives, and we have 3 years out of 33 years of his life.
Okay, let's get to the real point. The real point is you don't believe Jesus existed, correct?
I don't know whether a man. I don't believe a man named Jesus existed. Whether the book was based off a real man or a couple of
So do you
the
disagree?
suffering prophets or messiahs, or
So do
I
you
don't know.
disagree? Do you disagree with the top skeptical scholars, Bart Ehrman, Geert Luderman, Paula Frankenstein? Do you disagree with these top scholars who state that Jesus is in fact a real person in any scholar who disagrees with this, they're not a scholar of true iniquity.
I can give you Richard Carrier, Daniel Dennett, um, Seth Andrews. I mean, we can name scholars who go against. This is my thing. You got people on the east side saying they know this.
Yeah, but do you see the difference? On the Christian side, all of them say he existed, but on your side, you have some that say yes and some that say no. So either way it go,
I
either
only know Bart Ehrman. I don't know who the rest of those people were you said.
Gary Luderman, he's the second, but right under Bert Ehrman, he is the second world's most known skeptical scholar. Gerd Luderman, Gerd, that's his name. Gerd. He's a very renounced skeptical scholar. Look him up, and he in fact states that
Whether there was a Yeshua, Christos, or whatever it would be, because Christ is a title, not a name. Maybe it was based off his life, but as far as
it
you
ultimately
got
comes
TV,
it ultimately comes down to, did Jesus rise from the dead or not? This would ultimately prove if he's really God or if he's really not God. And I have there. Find me one scholar who has disproved the resurrection. Find me one.
the resurrection.
Yes. Do you know one scholar?
There's so many holes in the resurrection.
No, no,
What
no.
do you believe? Which book do you believe on the resurrection? Mark, Matthew, Luke, or John?
All of them. They don't contradict each other. They complement each other.
Oh, so you mash it all together.
Yes. So this is how Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John work, right? If me and you were in a car together, right? Let's say me and you were in a car together, and we're driving down the road, and I see a car pass us, and I say, "Man, that car drove past us so fast," and I seen them get pulled over by a cop. And then you make a statement and say, "I seen this car drive past us so fast, the car was red, and I saw the tires skirting, and the police chased them for about 10 minutes, and then they got pulled over." Are we contradicting each other?
Not at all.
Exactly. That's exactly what's happening in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. What you're seeing is real people giving their actual perspectives because they're not in the shoes of each other.
Not really, because Matthew and Luke copied off about 95% of Mark is in those two gospels.
How do you know?
If you read them side by side, because I've read this.
I'm saying you're saying from your, because you said that's your interpretation, right? That's what you said. And so when you're talking about
That
your
that Matthew and Luke copied Mark. You don't
you
believe
say
that?
you and Luke copied Mark. That's what you're saying, right? From your reading, you
I
read
say
it, believe. I'm not trying to misquote you. I'm trying to understand. That's what
Mark
you
was first, was it? Was Mark first?
Mark was first.
Okay, then Matthew and Luke,
Matthew and Luke recalled their accounts just as Mark does.
and okay.
I just gave you, let's put it
If you're saying they didn't copy off of Mark, now you're saying with all the scholars I've heard, you're going against that. But maybe you're right and they're wrong.
so this is why I'm saying that that theory is just like a skeptical theory, right? Because I just gave you an example of me. If me and you were in the car together, and I gave my story and you gave your
I
story, and we
understand it.
both and we both go,
But
to
even Bart Ehrman would say they copied off of
if we
Mark.
go into an interrogation room, right, and they get my statement and your statement, right? They get your statement and my statement. Our statements are very similar, but would you say we copied off each other just because our statements are similar?
It depends on certain factors.
So you have to be a skeptic. You can't say for sure. You see what I'm saying? If you can't say it for sure, you're making a claim that this is what happened, and I'm stating there's a possibility just like you're saying there's a possibility they could have, I'm saying it's a possibility they could not have. Just because their statements are similar does not make it a fact that they copied off each other, because they're reciting the same event, just like me and you are reciting the same event of us seeing the car get pulled over by the police.
Can I ask you this?
Go ahead.
If we do that, then you have our original statement. Do we have any original gospel?
Do we have any original gospels?
Yes, an original.
Well, we wouldn't have to have an original gospel. All we
Well, I
need
was just
is
asking.
all we would need is the gospel. But we do,
Okay, and Mark,
you know what we do have?
was the ending of Mark added?
You know what we do have? We have what's called the Resurrection Creed. Go look it up. It's called the Resurrection Creed. The Resurrection Creed is what Paul states in 1 Corinthians 15. He's stating that there was something given to him as of first importance, and the scholars date this
Paul
between
never met Jesus.
Paul did meet Jesus, but
And Christianity is based more off of Paul than it is Jesus.
they're stating, as Paul is stating in 1 Corinthians, that there was something given to him that was passed down to him that he's giving to us, that Christ Jesus died for our sins. And that Resurrection Creed, do you know when that Resurrection Creed is dated? That the scholars found out when that was dated?
Was Paul there at the resurrection?
Do you know? I'm talking about the Resurrection Creed. Do you know when they said that Resurrection Creed is dated for? The scholars.
I don't think it's called a resurrection creed. I think it's called something creed. I can't remember.
There's multiple names for it, but the Resurrection Creed is what Gary Habermas, the scholar, he calls it the Resurrection Creed. But do you know when they dated it?
No.
They dated this Resurrection Creed around 35 AD, which means it'll place you only 2 years after the death of Christ on that crucifixion.
Who dated it?
The scholars.
And what did they use to date it?
The
Scholars don't date.
So if scholars don't date, then where do we get the dates from?
Carbon dating. This is like
and who has to do those
process.
Who has to do those things?
I don't think scholars do it themselves.
Yes, it's a scholar who is. So if you have someone who's carbon dating, they're a scholar in the carbon dating field. They have a PhD. If they have a PhD, they're a scholar.
Can we talk about the gospel?
And then they passed it down. Well, I'm stating this because they're dating this creed at 35 AD, which places you only 2 years after the death and resurrection of Christ. So
okay,
this
but you told me how you saw the.
Here.
I'm waiting to finish. Go ahead.
This places you right there. Not 70 years later.
Because Paul said something. When did Paul meet Jesus?
Paul
on the road to Damascus?
Yeah, which is around 34 to 35 AD.
Okay.
Do you have another source that says he did it?
I doubt the whole thing. But I was asking you questions about the gospel, starting with Mark. Was the ending to Mark added?
Have the end dates what?
The ending to Mark. Mark didn't have the same ending as the rest of them. No one came to the tomb in Mark, I don't think.
Mark is his own person, so he's gonna write differently.
But someone added an extra ending to Mark.
Who?
I don't know who.
So then why are you making the claim if you don't know?
Because if someone's asking, hold on. You asked me a question, then you gotta let me answer.
But you said I don't know. That's like me saying.
Well, you gotta let me answer. Then you'll know what my question is.
But what I'm trying
you're jumping on it, making a joke out of it, but you're not listening.
No, I'm not making a joke out of it. I'm stating.
Yes, it is, because I asked you a question, and the answer is I don't know, and no one knows. That's the problem. No one knows who wrote that. No one knows who put the ending into Mark.
What I'm trying to get you to understand is, why are you making the claim that this happened when you're saying you don't know who did it?
No one knows who did it.
That's
It's
like,
like no one knows who wrote the gospel.
do you understand what I'm stating? You made a for sure claim. You said, I know that Mark, something was added at the end of Mark. And I said, how
No,
do
I
you?
said there's the ending. The ending to Mark was added.
You said someone added it.
Look that up yourself.
No, you said someone added it. So I'm stating, how do you know
Yes.
who did it? You said, I don't
Well,
know. So how do you know that
I
this is
don't think
true?
something added, so I'm figuring someone had to add.
And I'm asking who, and you say, I don't know. So I'm stating, you
And
can't
I'm
say
saying
that.
no one knows.
So then you
If
can't use
somebody's
that.
if somebody's adding stuff and taking stuff from the gospel, how can you trust it?
So I think that any piece of literature, any textbook, anything that we learn from that the scholars produce can be revised, and we have additions and things of that sort. So I think that the micro conversation is about the credibility of the Bible, right? Which I understand, and I think that that's a good observation to have. But I think the macro conversation is whether or not Jesus Christ rose from the dead, and that is the consensus that comes from the Bible. So I think that we have to focus more on
So
the
why do you believe that? If you
picture,
don't mind me asking.
or because it hasn't been disproven.
And his tomb is empty.
So you believe anything that hasn't been disproven?
No,
Or,
go ahead. Oh, sorry. You
Well,
did.
then I ask you why you believe that. You say because it hasn't been disproven.
well, we believe in Jesus Christ as God, and then when you examine history and it aligns, and then when you examine philosophical questions of your own and then it aligns with history, you come to a consensus on whether you believe or not. And so when you decide that you believe, you ask yourself philosophical questions like, could it be possible that Jesus Christ actually did resurrect? And so it's not that the emptiness of it is where we believe. It's more along the lines of the factual evidence that's presented from this textbook, because we could take it as a spiritual, reading, but then also we could take it as history, right? A piece of history. And so when we take it as a piece of history and use it as a textbook, and we say, okay, well, this is what it states happened at this time, where is the something that disproves this with all of the time that's passed since then, right? Since the ancient world, we haven't been able to disprove the fact that was already presented. And what the
Well,
fact
there's no fact other than there was an empty tomb.
there was an empty tomb, and then there was sightings by multiple witnesses. And at the ancient times, two witnesses was enough to make a fact. That's how they operated.
Yeah, they did a whole lot of backwards things.
Yeah, I mean, I think any generation does a lot. We do a lot of backwards things,
Oh,
We do.
you know that
Yeah,
it's
but
actually a
when
fact.
you learn better, you're supposed to try to do better.
You
That's
know
what I
I
that
was
think
taught.
that it's an actual fact that even right now in the 21st century, that eyewitness testimony is the number one evidence in the courtroom. It's the number one.
Sir,
It's number one.
are you listening? After being a police officer for almost 20 years, I can tell you that's not true.
Then what's the number one evidence?
DNA. As a matter of fact, we just had 68 of the 70 overturned cases in Texas. Was it Texas? From eyewitness testimony were overturned by DNA.
No,
You
no,
can have eyewitness testimony, but it has to be corroborated.
no. I didn't state that eyewitness testimony is what makes it true. I said eyewitness testimony is the number one source on if something could be reliable. So
did
this,
he did he pause his camera or did he drop down?
I don't think he dropped down, but Mr.
Let's give him
This
a minute. I think he might have paused it. Um,
he might have went off his.
he might come back up, but we'll give him a second. But regardless, okay, we can say, because I didn't know, maybe DNA. He worked as a police officer. Maybe DNA is one of the, or is the most reliable source, which we won't negate. But what we can say is whether it's DNA or whether it's eyewitnesses. In the ancient time, DNA was not available, right? These things were not available to them. And so with these eyewitnesses account, with the empty tomb, he dropped. With the eyewitness accounts, with the empty tomb, and with evidence that presents from Paul, from the 500 from the 500 that said that they witnessed him, that they seen him. These are all things, all point towards it being somewhat true. And when I say somewhat, I mean for the skeptics. Me, I've gone ahead and been able to accept it as 100% fact, because you have to place your cards where you believe. And so I believe in the facts that are presented, even if there are skeptics that can point out different nuances that, oh, this is a contradiction and this is this. That's why I say sometimes in religion and spirituality, you have to stop focusing so much on the micro. I'll give you an example. Y'all know I like analogies. Y'all know I like analogies. This is what I'll say. And this is from West. I like West, but this is what I'll say. And this is straight from him. So this is not me, but he talks about this analogy called Betsy Bonnet, right? Or Betsy Bosnes. And when he's talking about her, she's a scientist of some sort. And she is examining this biological specimen. And then she goes and she exasperates all this evidence from it. And she decides whether it's this or that, and makes all these factual conclusions on this biological specimen. So then her partner Jerry walks in and she's like, Jerry, I appreciate you for this biological specimen. I've exasperated this and I've concluded this evidence, and I can make medicine to heal this. Thank you so much for this biological specimen. And then he says, Betsy, that was a rose. Did you know what that meant? Did you know? And it's basically examining that there was evidence that she seen. She knew more about the biological specimen than anybody could ever conclude, and yet she knew nothing. And so I think that what we're stating is, even though we can talk about the evidence, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't, when we say, oh, how do you know? There is a level of relationship, a level of feeling and heart and emotion that comes with your relationship with God. And so a lot of times, for me specifically, I know Malik loves evidence, but I come on here and I try to advocate for my relationship first. And it's not just because it's my relationship, but I've seen the relationship with Christ transform so many of my friends and my family, and just different testimonies and things of that sort. And that's a realism to me. It's a realism to watch people's lives transformed and their peace and their quality of life be elevated due to this relationship. And then all the evidence comes and suffices. So I think was that long-winded? We got this working on here. Let's check his mic. You can't use. Oh, go ahead and unmute this working. Let's check your mic. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good.
What do you go by? What's your name? Or do you want me to call you this working?
Jeff's good.
What'd you say?
Jeff.
Okay. Jeff, are you atheist?
Yeah.
Are you agnostic, hard atheist? How do you identify?
Agnostic, probably.
Okay. And have you always been atheist, or were you once a believer?
I was a believer for a bit. Till about 12 years old, I kind of believed in Jesus and stuff. And then I heard things, and then I kind of went into the spiritual way.
What were those things, very briefly? What were those things that you heard?
Oh, just like the slavery and immoral stuff in the Bible. And I was like, it doesn't say that. And then I'd go look at it, and it said that. And I was like, this is not right.
Okay. Go ahead, Malik. I'll let Malik start.
Oh no, you can go ahead. You can go ahead this one.
Okay. Jeff, could you give me maybe an example of the slavery content you were that kind of messed up your mind a bit?
At that time, or what do I know now about it?
Oh, well, you either one, whichever one you want to present.
Oh, well, there's slavery, there's indentured servitude, and then there's chattel slavery.
Okay, so there's slavery in the Bible. Okay.
Yeah, that God endorses.
Okay, let's look into that. Do you have scripture?
Yep. I just need a minute. It's a big mess over here. I got a bunch of notes, but they're all everywhere. Give me a second here. So how old are you guys anyways? You guys seem young.
What do you think? No, I'm just kidding. I'm 29.
Oh, all right.
And how old are you, Malik? He
I'm
loves
46.
his age. Oh, Jeff, you're 40 what?
46.
46 young, Jeff. Come on now. You still got a whole lifeline to commit to God.
I got a sort my notes here. It's I just got one big sheet and I'm just cycling. All right, here we go. So what do we need to know?
Okay, we're gonna bring up scripture. Malik, you gonna bring it up?
Yeah, I could bring it up.
Okay.
All right, let's start with Leviticus 25, 44 through 46.
Is it Leviticus?
Yeah.
Leviticus what?
25, 44 through 46.
44. 25. Alrighty.
Curiosity, I can't see. What translation are you guys using?
I'm using New King James. What do you use?
I usually use the NRSVUE or the Net Bible.
Your mic or your audio sounds a little muffled.
It could just be me. Is it better now?
We
Any
can work.
better?
We're starting at 25. Yeah. Is it verse 25 or chapter 25? You said.
Chapter 25, verse 44
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
to 46. Yeah, I gotta find it in my Bible itself. I opened up the notes. So. Give me a second. All right, 25, 44 to 46. So it says, as for your male and female slaves who you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you, and from their families that are with you. You have been born into the lands, and they may be your property. You may keep them as possessions for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. These you may treat as slaves, but as far as your fellow Israelites, no one shall rule over them with harshness.
Who's speaking here?
Probably Moses.
Okay. So is this a prescriptive or a descriptive text?
Well, if you go back to the beginning of chapter 25, it says, the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, speak to the people of Israel and say to them. So this is God telling Moses to tell these people this.
Can I add in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mind you, I'm doing my own research while you're looking in because I haven't read this one specifically with annotation. But when I'm reading it, we're talking about slavery in ancient times, which is a bit different, actually very different than slavery as we categorize it today in modern terms.
That's what I was saying.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but from what I'm reading, it says that they must not be treated as slaves. They are hired as workers, and they must be released in Jubilee. So it says that God even says you must not rule over them ruthlessly. And so this, for context, this is a scholar commentary saying that this was a massive social reset. So wealth could not permanently accrue in a few families. So from what I'm getting from that is at this time, slavery is used in a certain context because of the language, right? But regardless, it's not the same modern slavery we understand. So what do you think?
Yeah, because slavery back then would be considered a servant, not an actual like how we think about American slavery. So back then it would be like workers. It would be like servants.
I think you're mistaken, and I'll clear this up.
Sure.
So one question: the book that you're reading, your study Bible, there, what is it by chance?
I have the NLT. Malik uses the New King James.
Yeah, but you were reading commentary notes, so it's like some form of
Blue Book Bible.
Oh, all right.
Bible Blue Book.
All right. Well, I got a scholarly book here too, and for that verse, for 44 through 46, it says addresses permanent enslavement of foreigners.
44 through 46. Say it one more time. Addresses what?
As I say, it's kind of muffled.
If I talk closer, does it sound better, or should I get farther away?
Muffled the closer you speak. Maybe.
All right. Is this better?
Is it headphones, Jeff?
Pardon?
Are you on headphones?
Yeah.
Maybe take the headphones out and try a speaker. It might be a little more clear that way.
1 second.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay, I
Go
don't
ahead.
know
What were
if
you
I can
saying?
hear you now. I'm going to plug my thing back in. I can't hear anything.
Yeah.
Well, I can hear you now, but am
And
I
you
still
sound
in
good.
this? All right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
sound better.
All right, yeah. So my commentary note just says it addresses permanent enslavement of foreigners. It doesn't say
Permanent.
anything about hired servants. But if we want to talk about the hired servants, we have those later. Because if you look through more 44 or chapter 25 here, a little bit about before, let's read this here. If we go back to 39, it says this is regarding Hebrews themselves. So it says, if any of you are dependent on becoming so impoverished that they sell themselves to you, you shall not make them serve as slaves. They shall remain with you as hired or bound laborers. So those are Hebrews that are being treated as hired or bound slavers. But the 44 through 46 is foreigners that are slaves for life.
Are we talking about 39 where it says if I'm just reading my translation. You can correct me from yours, but it says if one of your fellow Israelites falls into poverty and is forced to sell himself to you, do not treat him as a slave.
Yeah.
So
That's referring to the hired workers and servants per se.
treat him
That's
as
not talking about chattel slavery, which is owned for life as property.
And so was the description from this chapter, the description of chattel slavery, not aligned with when God says you should not treat them ruthlessly?
Yes, when he's
Yeah.
talking about the foreigners, he says, do not treat Israel's or Hebrews as you would a foreigner. Because if we go back to Exodus 21, it tells you how to be a slave.
Can I make a comment on something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
You said that you had a scholarly consensus on that.
Well,
What did you say again?
commentary. I got the Oxford Bible commentary, and I'm using the New Oxford Annotated Bible.
Yeah, and you said, what did it say? Because there's something I disagree with.
It said enslavement of permanent, or let me go back. I got to find that one again. It's the 4th edition too that I'm reading here, but where'd it go? Oh, come on. Oh, here we go. It says chapter 44 through 46 addresses permanent enslavement of foreigners. So the foreigners are not Hebrews.
Yeah, that's what I'm disagreeing with. Them using the word permanent is in fact a absolute lie, because they're missing. I'm going to tell you why right here.
Well, we just read the verse.
Do you know what this means right here? And they shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. They threw that part out. What does that mean? Do you know?
Yes, that is actually, if you continue in 47, it says, if resident aliens among you, that means basically if the foreigner that lives in your land, if a Hebrew sells himself to a foreigner, they're not treated the same way as a foreigner is by a Hebrew. They have to be released after 7 years or 6 years.
So what is the year? What is the year of Jubilee?
Yeah, that's after 6 or 7 years, isn't it? Or every 50 years or something? I forget.
Yeah, it's a 7-year cycle. Yeah.
Yes, but in the verse of 44 through 46 is specifically referring to foreigners. And in that verse, it says you can basically leave them to your children as property. They're inherited as property. They're not to be set free. It doesn't say that set free, but if you could keep on passing them down, they're not going free.
Yeah, right here on the children where it says, you may take them as inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them as a possession that shall be your permanent slaves, right?
Yes.
That's what you're speaking about?
Yes.
Yeah, what is the context here?
God's given the rules of owning slaves.
No, the context here is specifically speaking about the children, and there's a reason it's speaking about the children.
Hold on 1 second. No, that's talking about Hebrew indentured servants, hired laborers.
No, it says you take them as inheritance for your children.
Oh, okay, that part, yeah.
Yeah. And this
Yeah,
is
so
it says right here.
if
Shall
I
be
die and have kids, that my slaves go to my kids.
yeah, but
And if my kids die, those slaves, they go to their kids.
okay. Let me show you something. Let me show you.
We got more with the indentured servitude, so we could clear stuff up, but that's in Exodus. If you want to go back to that.
Now I'm gonna pull this up here.
Because also in the Exodus verses, those are more about indentured servants. But in one of the verses, you could kind of trick your indentured servant to become a permanent slave.
And I'm taking notes, Jeff. What was that Exodus? What did you say about Exodus? Wait, verse was that?
About which one?
About the tricking your servant into a permanence. You said that's Exodus, right?
Okay, yeah. Give me a second here.
I know Malik is pulling up.
I'm going to say
Yeah, I'm pulling up.
I'm going to say mine's Exodus 21, 4-6.
Okay.
That's for the other verse, but
Yeah, the one that we go to after this. Okay.
because a lot of these verses in Exodus really has to do with your Hebrew servants in indentured servitude, and they go released after 6 years. But Leviticus 25, 44 through 46 is strictly foreigners from other lands that you can own forever.
Malik, you know your screen, is it?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the death for it. I'm showing him what I'm talking about. I guess I'll let y'all look at that.
Oh, about the debt slavery? Yeah, that's a lot of that has to do with the Exodus and a lot of the Leviticus, but I'll point it out when you bring it up. I'll try bringing up my Exodus ones here too, if I can find them. Is it Exodus 21 that has all the slavery stuff there? Okay, yeah, it's Exodus 21 has a lot of the indentured servitude Hebrew slave. Like Exodus 21 here, verse 2, it says, when you buy a Hebrew slave, or a male Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, but in the seventh he shall go a free person without debt. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife will go with him. Now here's the tricky part. So if a master gives him a wife, and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave declares that he loves his master and his wife and his children, I will not go out a free person, then his master shall bring him before God. He shall be brought to the door of the doorpost, and his master will pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him for life. So basically, he's saying is like, I have your wife and your kids, but you can go free. But if you want to stay with them, you're my slave for life. You don't get to leave after 6 years.
I know Malik is pulling up some things now, but
I'm trying to find what's his name website because he has the thing on here.
The commentary.
Yeah, for Gary Habermas, he's a scholar. I have it.
There's another issue I have with this. There's actually there's a difference between theologians and critical scholars. Correct?
You said there's another issue between the theologian scholars and the who?
And critical scholars.
So you have an issue with theologian scholars?
Yeah, they start with the presupposition, so their interpretation and stuff is biased.
So is yours.
No, mine's starting from the ground up.
So you're telling me you
only start from the top down.
So what you're saying is you don't use skeptical scholars?
No, I use the book mostly and a resource like this Oxford annotated Bible. I think it's done by like 20 or 30 scholars. the Oxford Bible Commentary has a lot of input from like 40 or 50 scholars.
Yeah,
So
which is from who?
a lot of them, like one of the big ones is John Collins, who's like he's a super Catholic, but he's one of the scholars, and he agrees with. Well, he specializes in Daniel. I don't want to get into Daniel, but he agrees with the Jewish interpretation.
You said who? I never heard of the guy you were talking about. You said who?
John J. Collins.
John J. Collins. I've never heard of him.
I think John G. Collins.
No, John J.
Oh, my bad, Jay.
John J. Yeah, I actually never heard of him.
Actually, if you go on YouTube, they have like a Yale Divinity commentary course. It's like 8 episodes. It might be like 20 hours. With like John J. Collins does one. There's like 4 or 5 other scholars that do a bunch of things. They're really good and informative.
I'll look at it. Just
So yes,
for clarity, that's YouTube, right? For the Yale Divinity Commentary.
I believe so. You could probably just type in John J. Collins Yale, and I'm sure something will come up. Let's see.
Did you find Gary's thing?
Well, he said not to use Gary, so I'm trying to find a different.
I'll listen to it, but like I said, they have a biased interpretation of a lot of things. And it's, I don't know how to say it. Like theology starts with the presupposition to begin with. Like theology is the study of the world through the lens of like God and stuff, right? So it's already presupposing stuff before anything. Mine starts basically from the bottom, reading it, see what is true.
Okay, so this is what Gary Habermas says. So for foreigners, slavery was, like you're saying, it's a permanent thing, right? But it's not reflecting the slavery that we think of it. It's actually reflecting the norms that they were legal protections, meaning they became part of the Israelites. So because they owed debt, or because they went to war with each other, or because there was tension, but maybe between the two kings, or etc., right, where they had to become slaves or debt was owed, they were permanent slaves, not because they were actual, beaten to death or anything like this. They became actually a part of the Israelite tribe, or they became part of Israel, and so they were actually a part of legal protections. So that's why that they would inherit even the children, because then they were brought up to protect Israel.
Well, first, I got a few issues with that, because it doesn't exactly say how to acquire the slaves. So they could have just bought these people from another nation. They didn't have to go to war with them or be indebted.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is the ancient days, so it wasn't like how we did it, like how we American
slavery. What's the difference?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The difference was slavery back then, it was based off of debts owed or something owed, meaning you didn't become a slave because you didn't become a slave because you were bought. You became a slave either through war or through debts.
Not according to this verse. This verse says, "As for your male and female slaves who you may have, it is from nations around you that you may acquire them." It doesn't say how to acquire them.
Yeah, they acquired them through wars.
They could have just bought them.
Where does it say that at?
It just says acquire.
But where does it say bottom? Just like you're questioning me about where.
I'm saying that's another option on the table.
And it's also another option, they could acquire them through war, right?
Yes, that is definitely true from the Bible.
And what I'm saying is I'm using the evidence based off of what the Bible tells us, which is that when they acquired these, when you have instances like in Deuteronomy, when they would acquire people, it was acquired through wars. So the evidence points more to they acquired them through wars, not just buying them. I can't find. Can you show me a verse? Can you show me a verse where they say they bought a slave?
Well, yeah, Exodus 21, where it says you could sell your daughter to a slave. Or it says, when a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall go out. She will not go out as the male slaves do. So that means if a guy sells his daughter, she can't go out after 6 years. She doesn't get the same rules as a male slave.
You said Exodus what?
This is Exodus 21, verse 7. But if it continues, it says, if she does not please her master, who he designated for himself, which means that she's a concubine, because that's what it is, then he shall let her then he shall let her be redeemed if he doesn't like her. He shall have no rights to sell her to a foreign people, since he has dealt with her unfairly. But if he designates, okay, go on.
She could be released, right? She's not permanent to do anything, right?
Well, no, she's not free, because it says, like I said in the first verse, where it says that a male Hebrew slave could go out after 6 years. This one says, for when a man sells his daughter, she shall not go out as a male slave does. So a male slave leaves after 6 years. Female slaves don't.
When he sells his daughter, what does that mean?
He's selling his daughter.
How so?
Somebody is paying money for his daughter.
To do what?
A concubine or a wife. Because also, like I said, if he's not pleased with her, he could, she could be redeemed. He has no right to sell her. But then he says, if he designates her for his son, so he's saying, if I bought this girl and I'm giving her to my son because my son needs a wife. So if he designate her for his son, he shall deal with her as a daughter.
Yeah, so he's giving his daughter up so that way she could become a wife. So what they did back then was they gave each other offerings. So when you gave your wife up or give your daughter up, you would give your daughter up and they would exchange something with you.
Yes, dowry. I get that.
Or it could be a piece of land. It could be a piece of a kingdom. It could be anything. So when it says sell, it doesn't mean like
sell his daughter as a slave.
To become a wife or it
could be a wife. It could be a concubine. It could be a servant. If he designates it for his son, it's probably going to be a wife.
Exactly. So he's giving his daughter up and trusting that the man is giving her up to become his wife.
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah, but that's what it's implying because he's designated her for a specific person.
Yes, but nonetheless, he's selling his daughter as a slave that she can't leave after 6 years. That is slavery.
Again, this word slave, this is servant.
Avad, there's no word for slave. It has to do with the context of the situation. Like if I have an avad, which is a servant, and I'm paying him and he leaves, that's fine. Now, if I have a servant that I'm not paying that can't leave, there's a different meaning behind the word avad or something right now. They're describing two different scenarios. I think avad is the word. It could be like alad or something. I'm not familiar that much.
So let me show you this. If you go to Exodus is the Hebrew. When you go to this term here.
Hold on 1 second. I can't see good right now. I got to bring up a bigger screen here. And so, you know, this is using the Strong's Concordance. You know that, right? Or do you know the difference between a concordance and?
Yeah. But what I'm stating is, it's stated as a servant.
That's the female slave. Where's the other part? Could you click on that, please? What's going on here?
These are just the verses that even in KJV it says to be a maid servant.
Yeah, but this is using a concordance. This is not a lexicon.
Yeah, what I'm stating is when it's talking about a woman, the woman is always going to be a maid servant or a servant. In the context of the Hebrew, they're always referring to women as maidservants or servants, because they're not used the same way as men.
Well, you're using the KJV is not a good translation.
No. Well, no. I'm what I'm stating is, no matter which translation you use, it's always in concordance to the woman is always a maidservant.
Or slave.
A maidservant.
Wow. How come the verse thing above it says a female slave? She is not to go.
Yeah, but you see how you're using this because you want it to apply to what you're stating. I can use this and apply to what I'm stating.
So what are you saying? I'm selling my daughter as a maidservant that she can't leave?
Yeah, what I'm stating is it's
Makes sense being, with the open-endedness of being a wife, a concubine, or a servant. So with that open-endedness, you can infer.
Fair enough.
exactly.
I'm learning a lot. I'm over here like, okay, let me take these notes.
Oh, I got lots of notes. I've listened to a few of your things, and there, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I feel like there's a lot of misinformation that you guys were saying that I don't know, I didn't agree with, and I don't think a lot of the scholarly things that I seen agreed with it either.
Like what?
Wait, which is the one? I don't know. Yeah, I seen the one the other day with what was his name? Falwin. He was really good guest, by the way.
Yeah, we like Falwin.
Had to do with what was it again? Do you guys remember any of the topics you were talking about? It's all slipping my mind. This is like my first time doing one of these things, so I'm a little nervous.
I think it might have been.
We talked a lot with him because we talked.
He might have been talking about the one where you was on there with Fallon for like 3 hours, but I had dropped off a little bit early, so I didn't really get the full context of their conversation.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, can you think of any of the topics? Because I'm pretty sure I disagreed with you on all of them.
What was one of the topics you talked about with Fallon? It was like the dates of Paul and the Bible, and then I think Fallon was y'all talked about evolution. Y'all talked about
I don't know. We could go into one of the other things. Like we could start from the beginning with just the reliability of the Gospels.
You don't trust the Gospels, is what you're saying?
Well, I find there's too many errors and contradictions within them to be reliable. Like how many errors or contradictions would you need to see to convince you that this can't be accurate?
Well, what's a contradiction?
Something that is two people say totally different things that cannot possibly be true at the same time.
No, sorry. I'm saying like what in the Gospels are you saying?
Example.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, hold on one second. I'll start with Matthew, I guess, right? Since it's like the first. Well, Mark's the first one, but we'll go with Matthew here. We could just start in verse 1. Like how many errors do you want?
Said Matthew.
Matthew chapter 1, not verse 1. Sorry.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 1.
Like, from looking at things right now, I see like 4 or 5 errors just in chapter 1.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, okay. You know how everybody has double names, right? Like
different translations of their name?
No, like Saul and Paul and stuff like that. So could maybe on another page, could you look up Uzziah's other name?
Well, not everybody has double names.
Well, fair enough, but a lot of them do. So if you look up Uzziah, he has a different name. It's like Azariah or something like that. But anyways, if you come down to verse Matthew chapter 1, verse 8, it says, "And Joram, the father of Uzziah." Now the problem with this is they're missing 3 people. Or sorry, maybe 2. It's 2 or 3 people. And we could look at that if you go to 1 Chronicles chapter 3, 11 to 12. It will tell you the names of the lineage of Joram. And you'll notice that
Chronicles chapter 3, verse 12. Was that right?
What was that?
Was it First Chronicles? Can you turn me down a little bit? It's echoing a little bit.
First Chronicles chapter 3, 11 and 12. So,
Mhm.
so Jorah should have a son. I forget the order of the kids. It's something like Ahaziah. I can't even say these names. Joash and Amaziah. I can't even say these names. The third name is Uzziah. So in the Matthew genealogy,
Which verse are you talking about?
in Matthew,
No, I'm saying like which. I'm trying to look at the specific line that you're saying where the contradiction is.
He's
well,
saying verse
this
8.
is an error. This is not a contradiction so much as an error.
Oh, sorry. The error. Which line are you stating?
Okay, Matthew chapter 1, and it's going to be verse 8. It says, "And Asaph, the father of Jehoshaphat, and Jehoshaphat, the father of Joram, and Joram, the father of Uzziah." Joram is not the father of Uzziah. Joram is like either the grandfather or great grandfather of Uzziah.
Okay, and in Chronicles you're saying where's the error in Chronicles?
And no, the error is in First Chronicles chapter 3, 11, and 12. It gives the lineage of Joram. So it tells you who his kids are or stuff. So you'll see that Uzziah is not his son.
Is it verse 3?
Chapter 3,
Yeah. Oh, chapter.
verse 11 to 12, I think.
Okay, let's look at it.
Bad thing up here. 1 second. Let's see what mine says. So it says Joram, his son, I can't say these names. Ahaziah, his son, Joash, his son, Amaziah, his son. Now I think it's either Amaziah or Azariah. Okay, oh, it's the third one, Azariah. That is Uzziah. So he's 3 people away. They took out 3 fathers.
But when I'm reading about the ancient text, it says Matthew does skip. It's echoing. Can you?
Is it me?
Oh, can you see me?
No, I don't see you.
My camera might have died. It's okay. Can you turn me down a little bit in your room? Maybe mute me. But when I'm looking through it, it says that Matthew does skip some generations. It says that but in the ancient world, the word begot means ancestor, not necessarily immediate father.
Well, that would kind of be weird because how about we hold off on that because it's all going to be addressed later.
Okay.
But we could all agree that Uzziah is not the son of Joram.
Well, it says he begot him in the original text. So yeah, like the word begot can relate to father or ancestor. So we can agree on that.
Well, if like I said, if you go through all the rest of the genealogy, it's literally all from the fathers. But anyway, we'll get to it in a bit. It's near the end of the chapter. But we could go down a little more to Matthew verse 11, where it says, Josiah is the father of Jeconiah. And once again, in First Chronicles chapter 3, verse 15 and 16, the son of Josiah is Johanan, the firstborn, the secondborn, Jehoiakim, and the third, Zedekiah. And then the descendants of Jehoiakim is Jeconiah. So Josiah is not the father of Jeconiah. Jehoiakim is.
Right. So when you're reading these, you're using like a specific translation. Is that correct?
I guess.
I mean, you're not using God, because this is what I'm saying. If we go through this entire list and we say, oh, this skipped this generation or this skipped that, but we insert the word begot to be ancestor rather than father based on closer to the original text, then wouldn't that suffice based on Matthew's recollection being like, this is the father, the ancestor, the grandfather of this person, rather than going through the entire lineage?
Well, I understand what you're saying, and I know why it's saying that. At the end of this verse,
Okay.
it explains why this happens. But I'm just pointing out another mistake here.
Yeah, I heard. I noted it. Go ahead.
So we got the Josiah as the father of Jeconiah, but we have another issue with this. Is with Jeconiah, his lineage is cursed. For no sons of Jeconiah will sit on the throne of David, according to Jeremiah 22, chapter 30. Or chapter 22, verse 30. So Jeconiah's lineage is cursed. So anybody from Jeconiah afterwards is not allowed to be on David's throne. So that's another issue. But then we'll go to the very end part. And this is why some of these problems, well, the 3-person problems of issue. So verse 17 in Matthew. So it comes down to, so all the generations from Adam to David are 14 generations. And from David to the deportation to Babylon, 14 generations. And from deportation to Babylon to the Messiah is 14 generations. So they're coming up with the number 14 because I might be mistaken on this part, but I'm pretty sure in Hebrew they use that, like, what is it, grammatria, which has to do with numbers that relates to names and stuff. Well, David's name in grammatria comes out to 14. So in the first verse there, where Uzziah part, where they miss out 3 people, they miss the 3 people because they're trying to fit 14 in there. And then in the second part, there's 14 people in there. But the part from Jeconiah here to Jesus, you could count them yourself, there's only 13. So they even get that wrong.
Okay. And then this is progressing to another point you have, right?
Well, that last point about the 14 generations part, Matthew's trying to fit these things into some form of grammatic, I don't know the word, grammatria, thing to make this 14, to make it seem significant.
Okay. So let's just say, because I am going to research this once we get off, well, once I get some time to get on, but let's just say I think it's echoing, baby. But let's just say for the sake of this argument, because we'll get off here soon, that Matthew is making errors, right? Let's just say for that sake.
All right, we'll say errors.
Okay, Matthew's making errors. And so if Matthew as a man is making errors in what he's writing, what significance does this point to for you?
Oh, it's just, well, this is just the first chapter, and there's a lot of errors in it. That, like, there's many, many, many more. So it's like, if there's so many errors in this book, how could we consider it reliable?
Well, I think that the reality, like on the grander scope, is, again, I'm just reading this and speaking as if what you're saying is true. I would have to research this on my own, but what I'm saying is, regardless of if these people are reciting this perfectly to you, these are men reciting their like recollections of the events that occurred. And so with these errors being made, regardless, the recollection that they occurred towards Jesus Christ all coincide with one another in a legitimate manner. And so that kind of doesn't take away from the entire message that we're meant to receive from the Gospels.
All right. Well, the one thing I'm going to a little contest here is that's if we're assuming errors instead of somebody maybe making up a myth.
Assuming, but I'm saying that's, again, we go into a circle there, because it's like your assumption of myths, my assumption of errors, because of course we're flawed as men. And again, like I said, I'm not stating this to be true, just saying for an instance.
Well,
Yeah, I think ultimately what she's stating is, if I write on this book and say, you know, what'd you say your name was again?
Jeff.
Okay, if I write in this book and say Jeff does not exist, and I put it out there, does this have anything to do with if you exist or not?
No, it doesn't.
What'd you say? I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so the ultimate point is, regardless of the semantics of us going in circles of what this says or what that says or what this is or what that says, still can never negate the fact if God is actually existing or not. Yes?
Oh, well, a generic God, maybe.
Maybe.
This one, questionable.
It seems as though you have a lot of context in the way in what you're speaking about. So we might not be able to get to it all on this stream, but when we get back on live, do you think that you can maybe set a notification? Because we like to continue the conversation. It's pretty good.
I enjoyed this. This was great. I got plenty more. Like I said, this was just Matthew chapter 1.
That's what I'm saying. When you saying it's pretty more, I'm like, we're gonna be on here all night. So let's just put a.
Eventually,
I appreciate the conversation. Let's just put a pin in it, and then when we get back on again, hopefully, maybe if you set a notification, you can see it, because I know you said you don't really do this often, and then we could continue where we left off, which was in.
Yeah, because my ultimate point is, this is my ultimate point is, everything you're saying, right? From a skeptical point of view, sure, makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe there's a God, then why are you using the Bible in the first place?
oh, it's interesting. And the fact that many people do believe in this Bible, and many people do get their beliefs from this Bible, and these beliefs affect actual people's lives. And some of these beliefs aren't exactly good. Now, I don't know about you guys, I haven't listened to you that much, but I've heard a lot of Christians on some of these debate shows, and I'm going to say an overwhelmingly number of them will eventually get to saying killing babies is good. And that is not good for society when there's people that live amongst us that could think like that.
And you do know that that's also a very liberal side, and a very that's actually an atheistic worldview as well.
What is?
You just say harming babies is a bad thing, right?
No, good thing. Good thing.
No, yeah. Killing anybody or anything is wrong at all times, no matter what.
Yeah, that's my point. I'm
But
saying,
when you use the Bible with Christians and use the arguments from the Bible, they can't admit God's wrong, so they have to admit that killing babies is good.
yeah, but show me where you say God is wrong for doing anything he's doing, not what man is doing in the Bible.
Oh, what? Say that again, please.
You're stating that God is doing something wrong to human beings, and I'm stating, where is he in? Basically, you're saying he's immoral. He's not moral, right?
Correct.
And I'm stating, show me where he's immoral.
The David stuff. He killed David's baby and had his 10 wives raped.
Do you even know what happened with David? Why all that stuff happened?
Yeah, because he had Uriah the Hittite killed in battle so he could sleep with his wife.
So David did something immoral, right?
Yes.
And David also lied, and he also got someone murdered, and he also went to war.
Yes.
Therefore, judgment was cast upon David.
Exactly.
It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like judgment was cast on his wives and his baby and not on him. Remember, David says, "Why I have sinned. Why are you doing this to them?" Like, oh, sorry, that was the other one where he took God told David to take a census. And then David took the census, and then God said, "Why'd you do that? I'm going to kill 70,000 people now." And then David was like, "Why? I sinned. Nobody even knows what he did wrong."
Yeah, but if you look throughout the whole Bible, right? Every single person who has, because the Bible tells us, everyone, I think this is ultimately where you're getting at, is the morality. But every single human being who's birthed, none of us are good. We think that we're good. We say we want to live good lives, but none of us are actually good.
Depends on your definition of good, I guess.
What my definition of good is spotless.
What's that mean?
Meaning you have never lied, you have never stole, you have never killed or murdered or coveted or fornicated.
All of the commandments.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if that's what good is, then I guess that's a definition, but I wouldn't consider that exactly true, because I don't think all lies are bad. So I don't think that's just one thing. But even with stealing, if you're starving and need food and somebody steals food, I don't think it's bad.
You believe in there's objective morals, don't you?
I do.
So then if you believe there's some objective morals, that means there has to be someone that's giving the objective morals. And if you break those objective morals, then you can no longer be good, correct?
No. Morals could come from logic.
So you're telling me morals, which is actual, has to have a cause and causation. You're telling me logic can create.
No, it doesn't need a cause or causation.
Yes, if you have logic cannot create. Therefore, it cannot create morals.
No,
Laws.
morals aren't created; they're observed.
No, so what you're stating is logic creates morals.
We could determine what is right and wrong from logic, which right and wrong is usually.
But where did the objective moral come from? It had to be created.
No, logic's not created.
Where did it come from then?
It's a description of reality.
How do you know your reality?
How do I know my reality?
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, I forget the guy's name, Descartes. I think, therefore I am. Basically, I cannot be wrong about existing.
Can you prove reality?
Nobody could prove it.
Exactly. My point is, you're going based off of evidence that you think reality is true.
Well, here's the question: can you prove that you're not a brain in a vat?
Exactly. That's my point.
Well, I don't want to go into solipsism. That's silly.
Well, that's what you're saying. You're stating that logic is making up is what makes up morals.
No, logic is a description of reality.
You just said, I just asked you where does morals or objective law come from? You said logic.
Yes, logic is a description of reality, and what we observe in reality.
So how did logic,
what is good and bad from the morals?
So then, how did logic create objective morals?
Contradictions. It's like, well, you know when somebody is being harmed, like unnecessarily harmed, I should put, because not all harm leads to morals. Unnecessary harm leads to some form of moral argument. So we can see and observe things that are good or bad, and those come from description of reality with logic. There's nothing behind that saying good or bad.
Yeah, but you just said you believe in objective morals, which means it's an absolute.
There is no absolutes.
You just said.
There is no absolute truth because we can't prove we're brain and vat. So nothing is 100% certain except for logic.
You just said you believe in objective morals.
Yes.
That means across the board, this is objectively true for everyone.
Well, objective within our universe that we all share and live in. We can't, like I said, we can't prove we're not brains in a vat. So there's nothing. We can't know absolute certainty about anything.
Oh, okay.
We could only have a very good understanding and stuff of what we can observe and interact with. That's the best we could do.
If an objective moral exists, there has to be a creative mind that gave us this objective moral. Because a moral is something we can comprehend and put into action. So there has to be a mind behind that in order for us to put these things into actions.
No, I disagree.
So it came from nothing?
No, it comes from here. Let's try to break out. How do I put this?
Because an objective moral can't come out of thin air. It has to be put by something or someone.
See, I'm not really good on this philosophy stuff so much. So it's like I don't know the words to use. We have to determine what morality is and then what is good and bad per se. And those come from logic. You're saying somebody gave us logic, or you're saying somebody gave us morals, but I'm saying we don't need somebody to give us morals.
No, I'm saying someone gave us objective morals. Meaning we absolutely know it's wrong for a 50-year-old man to harm a 6-year-old girl. We know this is absolutely wrong across the board. So if you say, no, this is not objective, then that means it's subjective, meaning there is nothing. That means there could be nothing in the world that is an absolute, meaning it's only based off of your opinion that he was wrong. But if he thinks he's right, then you can't lock him up because he thinks he's right. It's his subjective right to think that what he did was right. But we know this is not true. There is some objective morals where it's absolutely wrong.
Sure, it is wrong. Hey, here's a good explanation of. I heard this from the dude on the internet. A good example of morals is what is it? Involuntary imposition of will, or voluntary, or what is it? Voluntary assistance of will. Both those are a good description of morally right and wrong. Do you accept that or no?
Sorry, say it again. I thought you were going over the. Say it again.
I was like, we have to first agree on morals and what is good and bad, correct?
Objectively or subjectively?
Well, objectively.
Yeah, objectively would be universal.
Well, once again, the universal thing's weird because are you using like I said, I hate to go into the solipsism shit.
Like for example, a universal objective moral would be murder.
Well, like I said, that can't come from God. He's murdering babies.
No, he's not.
He killed David's baby.
He's not murdering baby.
It says I struck down David's child or whatever it is. So he literally murdered the baby.
God, so that's why I said earlier, every single human being is sinful. And he told us from the beginning of time, the wages of sin is death. For example,
that's not true either.
So for example, if you were for example, if you were to commit a crime.
Yeah, well, you said the one thing is just wrong though.
It's not wrong.
The wages of sin are death.
Yeah,
it's not true.
That is true.
If you want to give me a second here, I'll bring up a verse for you.
When Adam and Eve was in their garden, and he said, "If you eat of this tree, you will surely die."
What a liar!
Who's a liar?
God.
How so?
Did they die when they ate the thing? It says, "In that day, when you eat the fruit, you will die." Did they die on that day?
Did he say that you were going to die instantly?
He said you'll die on that day.
No, he did not. He didn't say you were going to die on that day.
Okay.
He never
said to another verse, but we can go to this other one.
It never says you will die on that day. It never says that. Now you're lying.
We'll see. What verse? Do you know the verse by chance?
Yeah, it's going to be Genesis.
Is it 3 or something, maybe?
Yeah, I believe it's 3. Oops.
No, I think it's late 2, maybe.
I'm pulling it up right now. Pulling it.
So, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall die.
Yeah, did he say that day?
That's what that says. For in the day that you eat it.
In the day.
For in the day that you eat it, you shall die.
Yeah, so what does that mean?
That means the day that they eat the fruit, they will die.
You will surely die. Let me show you.
All right, hold on. I got a few web things up here, so. All right, I'm looking at you now.
Yeah, it's 3. 3 is the verse. I went to the wrong chapter.
Oh man, I lost mine too. Damn it.
Yeah, refresh mine.
Okay, it was verse Genesis chapter 2, verse 17. And once again, I'm going to ask, I don't know what you're bringing up, but what translation? If you want better translations, I could guide you to some.
No, I use usually Legacy Standard Bible.
Why is that good?
So they usually take keywords and put them in the English. Like, for example, like instead of using the word God, if the Hebrew Bible uses Yahweh, they would put Yahweh. Or if it used Elohim, it'll use Elohim. So it inserts the keywords that were used in the Hebrew.
But it also doesn't translate the Hebrew right.
Well, the truth is, no translation is going to be perfect. So.
Fair enough. There is no 100% good translations, but there's definitely ones that are superior to others. Oh, that was one of the things I was going to bring up from the other day about the Isaiah 7:14. We don't have to get into it about the virgin thing, but if you look in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is the oldest text of that verse, it says young woman is with her child, like not a virgin will conceive. But that's for another time.
So here he says, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat of it. For in that day that you eat from it, you shall surely die.
Yeah, so exactly what I said.
No. What he's stating here is in the day that you eat of it. He's talking about the day that you decide to take the fruit, not the day that you will die. That's why the that is before the eat, not the that after the die.
Huh?
Okay. So for example, if I say
it says the day of.
No, it doesn't say the day of.
For in the day. Oh, so hold on one second. My bad. Let's see what mine says.
So for example, if I say only the Father,
the day that you eat.
So if I say only the Father is God, versus if I say God is the Father is the only true God, are those two different sentences?
Say that again.
Okay, if I say only the Father is God, right? Only the Father is God, versus if I say the Father is the only true God, are those two different sentences?
They're different sentences, but they convey the same meaning.
No, it doesn't. So if I say only, it doesn't. If I say only the Father is the one true God, I'm placing the only, meaning that the Father can only be the true God, meaning there's no other scenario to that. Versus if I say the Father is the only true God, it doesn't negate that someone else could be the true God also.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It's meaning where you place it. Like if you were to write it out, that's why I said the where it places in that day, it's talking about the eat part. It's saying for the day that you decide to take and eat will.
So when they die?
They die because they eat it.
Yeah, but like 900 years later?
Yeah, which means it introduced death into the world.
What?
It introduced death into the world.
No, death was inevitable.
No.
Yes.
It introduced death into the world.
No, death already existed in the world.
Where?
At the end of the verse where it says the tree of life, they didn't eat from it. So that means because they didn't eat from it, death was going to come.
Because they didn't eat from it, death was going to come?
Because the tree of life, you know the story, right? At the end, when God kicks them out of the garden, and then he puts the angels to guard the tree of life, because if they eat from the tree of life, then they'll be like us.
And do what?
Huh?
And do what?
Says, see, the humans have become like one of us, knowing good and evil, and now they might reach out their hands and take also from the tree of life and live forever. So prior to that, they weren't going to live forever.
No, the tree of life was there because of what?
Because God put it in the garden.
Yeah, but what was the tree of life to do?
if for immortality and live forever.
Exactly. So they weren't going to die.
But they never ate from it, so they were going to die.
No, they were eating from it. He
No, they didn't eat from the tree of life.
he kicked them out of the garden so they wouldn't eat from it, so they couldn't live forever.
Yeah. So prior to that, they were going to die.
Their punishment was they were going to have mortality instead of immortality.
Yeah, they had the option, I guess, for immortality in the story, but prior to that, they didn't.
So it doesn't say anything about them dying beforehand.
Yeah, but if they didn't eat from the tree of life, then they wouldn't have immortality. So that just death comes.
Where are you getting that from? You're corrupting the scripture. Even you're corrupt
Then why didn't God want them to eat from the tree of life?
because they ate from the tree of good and evil that he told them not to eat. That's why he kicked them out of the garden.
So how would they even know that disobeying God was wrong?
Because they had a coherence.
Huh?
They were adults. They weren't like babies or anything like that. So
but they didn't know good or evil.
Yeah, but they still knew commandments. They still knew.
Yeah, but they didn't know it'd be wrong to disobey it.
Yeah, they did, because we have what's called conviction.
They didn't have the knowledge.
Yes, they did. For example, if I take a 6-year-old person, they may not fully comprehend what's going on in the world, but they know if they bite their friend at school, that is wrong. And if the teacher told them not to do it and they did it anyway, they know it's wrong because they were told not to do it.
They don't have the knowledge that disobeying is wrong.
If I told you not to go to jail because it's a bad place to go to,
how would I know disobeying is wrong?
Do you have to experience jail to know it's a bad place to go to? No.
But know why?
But he gave them.
I have knowledge of good and evil.
He gave them a commandment.
Yeah, but they don't know disobeying is wrong.
Yes, they do know disobeying was wrong. That's why they hid from him.
No, that was after they ate. Then they knew.
Yeah, but that had nothing to do. Them hiding from him had nothing to do with their
they felt shame because they had knowledge of good and evil.
No, they felt shame because they saw that they were naked.
Yeah, and that was apparently evil.
No, they were hiding from him because they were afraid of him. But the point that I'm making is they were. Do you think that they were like dumb?
Pardon?
I said, do you think that they were dumb and they couldn't understand commandments?
I think they're ignorant in living a blissful life.
So you think that they couldn't understand if I say, hey, don't do this, they couldn't understand that?
They wouldn't know why disobeying you would be wrong.
Okay. Do you have children?
Not relevant.
Well, the reason I'm asking because if you were to tell your child something, even though you're the parent and they may not fully grasp the concept of why you're teaching them what you're teaching them, but you tell them not to do it.
Yeah, but I know I know what's good and evil, and then I can impart that on them, letting them know why it's wrong and why it's things. So they don't know the whys.
So you wouldn't discipline your children no matter if they go against your command or not, huh?
It depends.
So it depends on what you said. No, because based off of your logic, they should know. They didn't know. So if they don't know, then there shouldn't be any consequences. That's what your logic is stating. If they don't know, then there shouldn't be any consequences. But what you're stating is it depends because
remember, God set everything up, right? God knows everything, right? Well, I don't know. Do you believe in those parts?
Yeah, God is all knowing.
So he created the earth, right? He did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what was going. He already knew what was going to happen. So he put a snake in the garden.
He knows all the scenarios that are going to happen. Yes.
Yeah, so he knew the snake was going to convince Adam and Eve that he was lying.
No. So this is how God. This is all how God's all knowing works. If you choose, because you have free will, if you choose to go through door A,
free will.
Yeah, we have free will. If you choose to go through door A, door B, door C, or door D, God knows every scenario that will play out from door A to door D. but it's up to you to decide which door you want to go through. This is the reason he gave them the commandment. If they would have chosen door A to obey God, a different outcome would have came out. But they chose to go through door B, and another outcome came out. God knew both scenarios, both scenarios of what would have happened if they chose door A or door B. But they chose to go through door B, so God said, "This is your outcome."
But you're under the assumption that free will is real.
It is real.
Can you define free will?
Yeah, you have the ability to choose and do whatever you want. You have the ability to choose to deny God, obey God, or worship God or not worship God.
I don't think that's the definition of free will. That's the definition of free choice.
No, I'm saying you have free will to do whatever you want.
Well, like I said, I don't believe in free will. I believe in free choice.
So do you believe you're a robot?
No, I don't know.
Because
Well,
only AI and robots don't have free will.
you don't have free will.
All right, so do you believe you're equal to a robot?
No,
Why? Why not?
because I have free will. No, I'm just joking about that. Because I'm not a robot. I'm biology. I'm a biological robot, if you want to call it.
You have a sense of freedom that AI does not, right?
Yeah, well, once again, your definition of free will was basically free choice, which is not the definition.
I'll give you an example. AI is smarter than both of us, correct?
Sure, we'll go with that. It knows more than us.
That's what I mean. So what I mean, it's more intelligent than both of us, right?
Well, I don't know about intelligent. It knows more things, as in it could source more things.
You and these definitions, man.
Well, I'm just saying.
Have a real conversation. Not, are you a scholar? I'm not.
I am not a scholar.
Yeah, let's just have a normal conversation. We don't have to get into the semantics. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying intelligence is different than being a source. You know, if I put a bunch of books or whatever in a thing and I have something cycle through them all and read them,
Okay.
It's not necessarily smarter. It knows more things, but it never put those things together.
If you know more of something, that makes you smarter. If I know more,
fair enough. If you want to go with that, I'll go with that. We'll go.
Yeah, if I know more about physics than you know, that means I'm smarter than you when it comes to physics, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So AI knows more things than us. It has more knowledge than us. Therefore, it makes it smarter than us. So what I'm saying is AI is smarter than us. Even though it's smarter than us, it cannot produce its intelligence unless you, Jeff, tell it to. You know why? Because it does not have the freedom to interact or make action on its intelligence without actual free will mind telling it what to do.
Well, here's my definition of free will, which I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's the definition, but free will, from my understanding, is be able to make a choice without any outside influence.
Yeah, you could do that.
There is nothing in your life that is not influenced. There's nothing you can do or choose to do that is not influenced by something one way or another.
Yeah, you can choose. You could choose to do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Choose. You could do anything, but how you determine that choice is always going to be determined by something. There's nothing in your life that you could ever choose that wasn't determined or influenced by something outside of you.
I can, I'm not influenced to pick up this cup, but I can pick it up right now because I want to.
Well, exactly. That was not exactly the same type of influence. That's more of a necessity, a biological necessity. But
no, it's not. I literally just made a choosing of doing something with no influence. I just felt like it.
No, the influence was basically trying to prove me wrong.
No.
That's what the influence was.
No. You can. So you're telling me someone has to influence you if you decide?
No, not someone. It could be anything. Like say you wanted to have like lunch, or you're going to have McDonald's. I don't know if you eat that stuff, but something somewhere along the line influenced you to want McDonald's, whether it be a commercial, the smell of it, you tasted it once when you were a child and you enjoy it. Whatever you choose is usually determined, it's always determined by something previously that influenced you to that choice.
You do know, based off of the definition you just gave for free will, I can
Well,
I can apply the same exact definition off of freedom of choice. If you choose to marry a woman, you can say I'm choosing to marry her based off of the influence that I want children and I want a happy house. So
exactly.
what you're basically what you're trying to do is
You wanted those things and you made them happen, and you chose that to happen.
based off of an influence.
Yeah, you were influenced throughout life that you wanted a wife and kid and all that stuff.
Yeah, but you're choosing to do these things. No one is forcing you to.
Yeah, the choice is fine. You have free choice. I
Is
believe in free choice.
someone forcing you to do it?
No.
So then you have the free will to do it because you're not forced.
Free will
Not having free will is like what I just said, AI. It has to be forced to make an action. You say, hey, AI, do this for me, but it cannot do it on its own. Therefore, AI doesn't have free will because it cannot do the, ChatGPT cannot make an algorithm for itself. It had to be programmed. It cannot determine what is the summary of this book on its own. Someone has to give it the commandment to do it. Versus you have the free will to give yourself a commandment, to choose to do it or not to do it. So you have the free will because it's not forced and it's not robotic.
No, nothing. It's nothing about force or robotic. It's being influenced by another thing. You're saying if I make a command, I'm making that command on some previous influence to even make that command.
What does an influence have to do with free will? You're making a free choice.
No, see, that's the thing. Free will is basically determining a choice without any outside influence.
No. And when someone is in prison, do they have free will?
It depends on the sense that you mean, but no.
Why? Because they have to.
They are being punished for a crime they committed. Mostly, some people are innocent.
Their free will is being taken because of why?
Because they committed a crime.
And so now they're in a scenario where they can only do things by what they're told to do, just like AI, right? The guard comes in and says, hey, you have to get out of your cell. So then they do it. So their free will is gone because they can't make the choice themselves. They don't have free will because they can't make the choice themselves. So free choice and free will go hand in hand. You just said they don't have free will.
I'm preferably talking about like non-incarcerated people who don't have their rights taken from them. So.
Yeah, but what I'm stating is I'm using the exact same thing with a human. They're getting their free will taken because the free will is taken because they don't have the freedom to choose what goes on in their life.
Well, they do have choices still. They're not slaves per se. They don't have all the choices, but they still get choices. They're humans.
Yeah, but
they could choose not to follow the guards.
Here's the thing. They have will, but it's not free.
Fair enough. But that's a different scenario because they're paying for a crime that they committed. We're talking about regular folks on the street.
Yeah, you have free will because you can freely choose to do whatever you want. Just that simple.
I think you should look up determinism, compatibilism, and free will.
No, I think the problem is these people who are so skeptical, they try to make everything sound so intelligent that then this intelligent bubble, right? These scholars and all this intelligent bubble, they're now in a cycle of you're doing it right now. The definition of this and the definition of that, the definition of this and the definition of that. And you get caught up in this semantic of free will and free choice are the same exact thing.
I never said that.
Yes, you said free will and freedom of choice is not the same. You said that.
I said they're not the same.
Yeah, so what I'm saying that they go hand in hand. They're the same. But because you're going based off of it has to be the literal definition or they go hand in hand. You're getting caught up in the semantics of the actual literal definition instead of what is reality. The reality is if you have freedom of choice, you have free will. That's the actual reality. Just that's why I use the scenario of the prisoners. They don't have freedom of choice. Therefore, their free will is taken. That's reality.
Oh, sorry. Got lost there for a second. But yeah, there's a difference between free will and free choice, but we could not talk about this if you want to. But
all I'm saying is, man, is truthfully, all I'm stating is trying to go down this intellectual wormhole is the reason why you're so skeptical. You're so
Well,
skeptical.
I start from the bottom and work my way up. You start from the top and work your way back.
Well, I start from the only thing that makes sense, which is there's an infinite creator. We're finite beings, and because we're finite beings, there has to be someone outside of finite in order to create all of this in the first place.
Why?
What do you mean? Why? Okay, I'll give you a perfect example.
I'm a naturalist, or I don't know, material. I don't know.
I'm gonna give you the perfect example of why God exists, and a perfect example of what God in a nutshell is. Right? Mathematics. We are finite because we are within a box. We are limited, right? So if I take 1 + 1, that equals 2, right? Always.
Well, I don't know. Sometimes you guys get numbers wrong. So
1 + 1 = 2. It's limited, right? That's the equation. It's a limited equation, right?
sure.
This is us as humans. Here's the scenario. In the numerical system, 1, give me the last number. From 1, what's the very last number of the numerical system?
9.
Are you gonna give me a real answer?
What do you mean? What do you mean? The actual, like, how many numbers there are?
Yeah,
Oh, well, that's infinite.
exactly. So it's infinite. This is God. So we can mathematically understand and comprehend that 1 all the way to what? We don't know because it's infinite. This is God. Mathematics is the same thing that God is. He's infinite because he's 1 all the way to never ending. He's eternal. So for mathematics of 1, right, which we equate to time, we have a time period. We are limited by time. He's outside of time and space, just like 1 all the way to who knows what number.
Don't you have to demonstrate some of this stuff?
No, I just gave you. I just told you. Give me the last number of the numerical system.
Well, technically, the last number is 9, but infinite is what you want. But yes.
No, you can go. 10 comes after 9, right?
Yeah, but that's a 1 and a 0, right?
And then you got 11, right?
Yeah, but that's a 1 and a 1, right?
And then you
9 is technically the highest number.
12, right?
Yeah, I get that. I know what you're saying. Infinite's the highest number, but 9 is the highest numerical, as in all those other numbers are, numbers put together.
Here you go with these definitions again, man.
Well, fair enough. I'm just saying.
What I'm stating is, that the point I'm making is it's an infinite amount of numbers. So if it's an infinite amount of numbers, right, that means numbers are eternal. So we have an example right here on Earth that something is eternal.
Energy.
Where does that come from?
The laws of thermodynamics.
So we have plenty of examples of things can be eternal, right?
Oh, not really, just energy, pretty much.
You just gave me another example. You just said numbers.
Well, the numbers ain't real though; they're abstracts.
Okay, boss. I think this is where we stop here. You and these.
Can you show me a number in real life?
Yeah, I just told you to give me the last number of them. Give me the
No, I mean,
from 1. What's the very last
number 1?
Is it 1 billion? Is it 1 trillion?
No, it's infinite. There's no end to the numbers.
Exactly, and there's no end to the eternal God.
There's no end to the universe.
Yeah, which he created.
Well, you got to demonstrate that part, though.
I just did.
By saying it's infinite, the energy is infinite. No mind involved.
Okay, I guess we just wrap this up here.
Well, you don't believe the universe is energy, and you don't believe, or you believe energy has a mind?
No, I believe the universe is created, therefore it can't be eternal.
Well, that's what I mean. Don't you have to demonstrate that part?
Yeah, your skeptics already demonstrated that for us. They told us that the earth was created.
Huh?
They told us that the earth was created. When you put a time limit on how old the earth is, that means even if they want to say it's 3 billion years old, That means 3 billion years ago, the earth was created. That means it still has to be created.
Yeah, that's created by gravity.
Therefore, the earth is not its creation. It's not eternal.
Yes, the earth is not eternal. I agree.
Yeah, so someone created it.
Gravity.
So you're telling me something that cannot think created thinking things?
That's a different argument. You're going into other things, but
No, that's what you just claimed. You said gravity.
Gravity created the earth.
We're here on the earth, right?
Yes.
And we're thinking, right?
Yes.
So how did gravity create us? Why isn't gravity thinking?
Well, gravity don't think, but how did it create us?
How do we think, but gravity doesn't? If gravity created us,
Gravity didn't create it that way, as in like, hey, I'm making an earth. It has to do with like the accretion disk and just. Do you know how gravity works?
Yeah. So give me an instance where something non-thinking created something thinking.
An instance where something non-thinking created something. It's going to have something to do in the evolutionary chain, somewhere from, I don't know, somewhere deep in the evolutionary chain, whenever minds or something evolved.
So you believe in evolution that is from 350,000 years ago, but you don't believe in something from 2,000 years ago. That sounds like a miracle to me.
Well, we have evidence for the one.
Oh, so you have evidence from something from 300,000 years ago, but we don't have evidence from something 2,000 years ago. That sounds very crazy.
Fair enough. We have reliable evidence.
From something from 350,000 years ago, but we don't have reliable evidence from something from 2,000 years ago.
What's 350,000 years ago?
That sounds crazy. Do you not see how crazy that sounds? We have reliable evidence from something from 350,000.
I already showed you in Mark verse 1 how many errors there were, so it's already unreliable.
You are claiming we have reliable evidence from something from 350,000 years ago, but we don't have reliable evidence.
What's 350,000 years ago?
You're talking about evolution.
Yeah, well, it goes back farther than that.
That's even worse.
Why is that?
How long ago do you want to go?
I don't know. I think the first fossils are something like what, 4 million? Oh, wait.
So you're saying we have reliable evidence from something for 4 million years ago, but not reliable evidence for something 2,000 years ago. That sounds like a miracle to me.
Well, one, we have people's writings of something, and other, we have actual physical evidence that can be verified and reproduced by anybody that has the capability of doing it.
No, all they're doing is just making up theories. It's not a fact. It's a theory. These are theories. These are not facts.
All right, I got a little experiment here. Can you steel man? What are we talking about? The creation of the universe or evolution?
You're the one who made the claim, not me.
All right. Well, we'll start with the creation of the universe, I guess, and Earth. Can you steel man the scholar people's position?
Well, the scholars they agree with evolution. The skeptics.
Okay. All right. We're going to evolution. The creation of the universe and evolution are two separate things. So we'll stick with evolution then.
Yeah, but my point is, even if evolution is 4 million years ago, you're telling me you who are a skeptic about something from 2,000 years ago that was written by man, in your opinion, believe in something from 4 billion years ago that's also written by man. That sounds crazy.
No, see, okay, you got to steel man like some scientific theory or what you think evolution is because I feel like you're severely misinformed on this topic.
No, I'm not. What I'm stating is, where did you get your information about evolution from?
I have received it, unfortunately, from books.
Exactly, just like my Bible, right? So you're trusting the man.
No, here's the difference, though. Those books are relying facts of actual physical evidence.
How did they have a fact from 4 million years ago?
With radiometric dating.
And
do you know how radiometric dating works?
So what it is? So okay, let's say this is true. If they can have something and they say this is true and we can date this from 4 million years ago, don't you think 2,000 years ago is a breeze for them?
Yeah, they could date all that stuff 2,000 years ago. It's the context that's in the writing is the questionable part.
So if they can do all this work, why haven't they disproven Jesus rising from the dead?
How do you disprove a negative?
Jesus was a real person.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Okay, Jesus was a real person, and it is a consensus fact that they all agree he died on at the crucifixion by the hands of the Romans.
Not necessarily.
Yes, they do.
Can I show you something?
So you disagree?
Well, no, I'm just disagreeing. Not everybody agrees with that.
Do you disagree that he was crucified?
I'll agree that he was crucified, but it's not totally agreed upon.
So we have Jesus was a real person, and we have Jesus was crucified. And then,
well, if you listen to the Sanhedrin, they say he was stoned to death. So it's different than being crucified.
We have Jesus was a real person, and Jesus was crucified.
Correct.
So now we go into, did Jesus actually rise from the dead or not? This is what every single person is arguing. We're not arguing anymore about if he existed, and we're not arguing anymore about if he was crucified. What everyone is arguing about today in 2026 in the 21st century is, did he or did he not rise from the dead? And no one has disproven this. And you're saying, how can you disprove a negative? It's not a negative if we've already established that he really existed and he really died. So now let's get into the facts about his resurrection. And no one can disprove.
We could do a bunch of things with this, because if you talk about Romans and crucifixions, like what do they mostly do to crucified victims?
So are you telling me you have more information than the scholars?
What do you mean? Scholars actually, some of them agree with me. The theologians agree with you. That's the thing.
No. So
do you think the Romans would take somebody who they seen as a criminal and take him down off a crucifixion after a day?
Take him down off a crucifixion? Well, he was a ethnic Jew.
Does that mean anything to the Romans?
Yeah. So what that means, they allowed the Jews to go bury him, because the whole point of it is, if you actually read it, the Romans didn't even want to crucify him in the first place. They didn't really care. It wasn't their problem.
Well, see,
it wasn't even their problem. They didn't care.
There's so much things here. Like, I want to bring up so many things, because regarding the Gospels,
the point I'm making is, has anyone disproven the resurrection?
You can't disprove. Has anybody proved a resurrection?
Yeah, they have evidence.
Such as
Jesus' tomb was empty.
So if I find an empty grave, I could claim somebody rose from it and left?
Oh, you have to find the body.
No.
Yes. What do you mean no? Why didn't they find the body?
Did Genghis Khan rise to heaven?
Why did we're not talking about Genghis Khan, I'm talking about Jesus Christ.
We can't find his body.
Why can't we find Jesus Christ's body?
Because it was buried in a mass grave.
No, he was buried by himself.
And then there's the other theory, which if you look in some of those old Roman laws, there's edicts about about grave robbers. And people that were like religious and spiritual people were very, their bodies would be robbed because they thought people would get spiritual blessings and stuff from them. So that's a minor. Nobody's really arguing for that one, but that is a theory about where his body went. Like I said, I'm going with the Romans. Don't take people down off a crucifixion. They usually, when you crucify a victim, you're pretty much left up there to rot, to discourage anybody else from doing these things.
So it's a consensus again that they consider Paul as a first-class philosophical mind, meaning they deem Paul as a scholar.
Who?
Theologian scholars and skeptical scholars. This is why they accept his 7 of his books, because they believe Paul to be a significant.
They believe he wrote those things, and that's true. I don't believe they think he was a scholar. Well, I guess he was considered a very smart man in his time.
They believe he was a first-class philosophical mind.
That's debatable.
This is what they say. You think skeptical scholars would?
From my commentaries, they mentioned about Paul misusing some of the Hebrew things. So it doesn't sound like he was very scholarly.
Okay, I guess we'll leave it at this, boss.
All right. It
All
was
right.
fun though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
All right. If you have me back, I'll happy to come back another
Yeah,
time.
yeah, you can come back anytime. I enjoy the back and forth, honestly. No, I don't take any of this stuff personal. This is always a fun time.
I took this super personally, man. I'm really
But I hope you come back so I can make it even more personal.
All right. Well, I'll think about it. When are you on?
Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays.
All right. Well, maybe I'll see you in a couple days.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
All right.
I
got to figure out how this works to get out of here.
Oh, you don't have to. I can end it. It'll just end it.
All right. Thanks. Take it easy.
Bye.